Good evening. Welcome to the Town Council Chambers, March 10th, 2014, 7 p.m. Agenda item number 1, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Agenda item number 2, roll call, please.
Councilor Carrasco?
Present.
Councilor Clements?
Present.
Councilor Langevin?
Present.
Councilor Manna?
Present.
Councilor Moriarty?
Present.
Councilor Nicola?
Present.
Councilor Vandal? Oh.
Who was it?
Marcucci's.
She's
Counsel-
excused.
She's excused.
And did you say Amelia?
Councilor Peliquin?
She's excused also. Thank you.
Sorry.
Agenda item number 3, consider and accept the Town Council meeting minutes for Monday, February 24th, 2014. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, show of hands.
Two abstentions.
Yep.
Me and Councilor Clements.
You have the exceptions. You all set?
Yes.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Ms.
Yeah, no, I asked her. I
yeah.
wanted to make sure.
If we could ask the secretary, the recording clerk to please let us know that you got our abstentions for Mr. Carrasco and myself.
Okay, I did.
'Cause we weren't here.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Subcommittee reports. A, General Government, Councilor Nicole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You have a
I
lot.
have three meetings here to read, so I'll try to read quick. A meeting of the General Government Subcommittee was held on Thursday, January 16th in the George Parent Community Room. In attendance were myself, Councilors Sean Moriarty, Vandal, Monique Manna, Denise Clements, Darlene Marcucci, Dave Langevin. Citizen members Holly Christo, Mike Janes. Chelsea Davis from the News, Irvin Deck, Stan Tech, Town Manager Robert Reed, Town Attorney Robert Caprera, Airport Commission members Paul Parent, Rick Clements, and Ron Plouffe, Airport Manager. John Pekulis, Allied Appraisal Association. This meeting was called to order at 7 o'clock. Agenda item number 1, discuss the future of the Southbridge Municipal Airport. I stated that agenda item number 2 needs to be reviewed before the subcommittee could address agenda item number 1. As Mr. Pekulis from Allied Appraisal was only available until 7:30 that evening. So a motion was made by myself and seconded by citizen member Mike Janes to change agenda item number 2. Review the appraisal of the airport property by Allied Appraisal to agenda item number 1. Vote by a show of hands, all in favor. Mr. Pekulis discussed the appraisal and said it was different than most, as the appraisers looked at the property as if it were not an airport. He said the two most important parts of the appraisal were the highest and best use, which was the highest and best use of the site, and the highest and best use as improved. One is looked at as if there were no improvements on the land, and the other with the improvements that exist. The appraisers looked at the cost of taking down the existing buildings and what would the resulting value be, and the conclusion was that the property either remained undeveloped until sufficient demand arose for industrial development use or for expansion of the neighboring landfill/waste processing facility. They didn't think subdivision of the property was likely due to the expected slow sellout rate, high cost to carry, and current market conditions. He said he has consulted with other municipalities in the past regarding the taking of the taking of large tracts of land and basically being the developer, trying to subdivide the land and sell it off. It's almost always a losing battle. Mr. Pekulis didn't feel that in this case the demand exists for a parcel of land the size of the airport. He went on to discuss the section of the appraisal which he felt was actually the most important part, which is highest and best use as improved. The section looks at what is currently there and what the airport market looks like. He said it's basically private use. He said what drives success in a municipal airport is access, and the airport has that now with Commercial Drive, and we are 90% of the way there. We just have to repair it all the way around. The other important factor in the structures and what we have now are half well-maintained buildings, and the other half are dilapidated or destroyed from the tornado. The conclusion is that the property continue to be used as it is with infrastructure improvements. Repairs would have to be made to some of the buildings, but he feels the foundation is there for a successful operation. The valuation of the property was looked at as if it were not an airport, and he didn't feel that waste removal and demolition would be an issue with Casella right next door. There are not many strong sales of large tracts of land like 264 acres. He looked at comparable tracts of land and said that with no zoning at the airport, it would easily be developed into anything we wanted, except that the absence of water and sewer at the airport presents a hurdle. In the report, it also states that in conversations with acting town manager Reed, it was revealed that Mass DOT would likely buy back 75 acres if the airport was decommissioned. Mr. Peculis also stated that depending on where the 75 acres was carved from, it may or may not affect Allied Appraisal's fair market value of $15,000 per acre, a total value rounded up to $3,950,000. The appraisal was conducted at the request of the town of Southbridge, as if the property was no longer operating as an airport. This cost per acre does not include demolition of existing improvements, which could range anywhere from $3 to $5 per square foot, and that overall, the infrastructure was there to have a successful operation. There needs to be some improvements to the existing infrastructure, and the most important was access from Commercial Drive to the airport, as there needs to be a direct route to get the highest return from the airport. After his presentation, I opened the discussion. Citizen member Janes asked about the 75 acres that the DOT wants to buy back. Acting Town Manager Reed said that in the Stantec report, it was stated that there was some land set aside from grant money that would have to be paid back if it was discontinued as an airport, and there were assets in the form of land that came to the town, of which some fair market value of land might have to be paid back as well. That is the 75 acres. Mr. Janes said that according to Stantec, the town doesn't own that 75 acres, and Mass DOT would have to buy it from FAA at fair market value. Mr. Reed said there is the issue of decommissioning red tape the town would have to go through with the FAA and the DOT. That would make the decommission even more problematic. Councilor Clements asked Mr. Peculis where the data came from for the demographics, and he stated that they are census-driven and that they pull information from the U.S. Census Bureau and a real estate data service that has a very robust section for demographics. Councilor Clements also said that it states in the appraisal report that Southbridge has 27 based aircraft. She thought that current number was less. Mr. Peculis said that he could get her the information as to when the data was pulled. It was probably in line with the census data. Councilor Langevin said that the council finally got to where they wanted to be on this issue. His whole point was to look at the land value and try and shake things up and try to move in a different direction. He also said another important point is paying back the FAA, and obviously that money isn't readily available, so what can be done to improve it and make it better, because currently it's just not going in the right direction. We do want to move forward with this, but we were just waiting for this last piece to come in, the last piece being the appraisal. I said that from what I read of Mr. Peculis's conclusion and what he has reiterated, it's the best course of action to continue to use the airport as an airport, and I believe the council agrees with that. I said it was due diligence in looking at all aspects before a decision was made, that a lot of work is needed at the site, and I'm counting on the Airport Commission to get more involved with that. The council relies on boards that specialize in certain aspects of town government, and this is an area that I feel needs to be concentrated more heavily, and the council and the Airport Commission should be working together to get this taken care of. I always felt the airport was a diamond in the rough, and there's a lot of money up there, and it won't take much to make it a better place. I expressed my appreciation to Mr. Peculis for his appraisal, Acting Town Manager Reed acknowledged the work that Mr. Pekulis did to get this appraisal done. They put a rush on it, and he put extra people on it to get the job done in a short period of time. Mr. Pekulis added that the value in operating the airport could be different, and it could increase the property value as they only appraised it as land. He said the most vital thing that could be done at this point would be to connect Commercial Drive directly to the airport in a straightaway fashion. Councilor Clements asked Mr. Pekulis about other properties that they had appraised, and he said he had completed and turned them in several months ago, but would get the records sent to Mr. Reed. Mr. Janes asked if sewer was installed on Commercial Drive along with water and power when it was built, and Mr. Parent from the Airport Commission stated that sewer only ran as far as the landfill. Mr. Parent went on to say that there is town water at the airport now, and there's a well that is no longer being used. He said technically they lost $150,000, but the FAA granted them an extension on the lease. He would like the council to move on Phase 2, which is removing some of the old buildings. Mr. Deck from Stantec stated that the extensions normally run until May 1st, but if the FAA and the state are comfortable that Southbridge is going to move forward with the project, the FAA will give an extension on the grant until later this summer. Airport Manager Mr. Plouffe said that Phase 2 plans are to knock down the Quonset hut, half blown away, the office terminal, and the old T hangars. The state has come up with a new program to build a 3,500-square-foot terminal and a new hangar, that plans drawn up for a new terminal in the Airport Commission's master plan were slightly different. Mr. Deck said that in drawing up the master plan, they came up with the idea to combine two buildings, erect a hangar, and then use some space to construct a terminal and an office. Mass Commonwealth came up with the idea of developing terminal buildings at all general aviation airports because they are a good business tool and the focal point of the airport. There are different sizes based on the classification of the airport. In the case of Southbridge, it would be around 3,500 square feet. This was separate from the master plan of the airport as they were looking to combine two buildings, but the state wanted a separate terminal building. The state's architect decided to take a look at the plan that Southbridge came up with instead of stepping backwards. Mr. Deck said the good thing was there would be funding from the state for this and also use of FAA funding as well as insurance money. This is long. I'm going to try to paraphrase a little bit of it. Certainly, if you want to read all of the details of this very well put together meeting, it's available to you. This is the bottom line. Vote to continue, this was the vote to continue operation of the airport and send to council for approval. A motion was made by Citizen Member Christo, seconded by Citizen Member Janes, to continue operation of the airport and send to council for approval. Vote by a show of hands, all in favor. Mr. Deck said there were no plans to connect Commercial Drive to the airport. Attorney Caprera spoke about the possibility of an extension built from Commercial Drive and discontinuing Barefoot Road. Casella may help extend Commercial Drive to the airport. A motion was made by Citizen Member Christo, seconded by Councilor Moriarty to adjourn the meeting. Vote by a show of hands, all in favor. Respectfully submitted, Justine French, Recording Clerk. Then we had another meeting, General Government Thursday, February 27th, also held in the George Parent Conference Room. In attendance were myself, Councilors Vandal and Councilor Moriarty. Also in attendance were Councilors Langevin, Marcucci, Carrasco, Clements, Manna. Acting Town Manager Reed, Ray Gauthier, Michael Montigny, Jim Cosgrove, Gus Steves, and Maureen Doyle. Michael Janes and Holly Christo were excused. I called the meeting to order at 7:02. Agenda item number 1, vote to approve the contract between the Town of Southbridge and Valley Communications to install and upgrade existing equipment to new equipment in the Cable Public Studio in Town Hall in the amount of $69,300.80 and to submit to council for ratification. Mike Montigny said this is for improvements to the equipment of the cable studio. No tax money is used. The money is coming from a capital account that has been accumulating the funds. Mr. Gauthier said the equipment they have is over 10 years old and needs updating. A motion was made by Councilor Vandal, seconded by Councilor Moriarty. Vote by a show of hands, all in favor, 3-0. Agenda item number 2, review proposed Visitors Code of Conduct and recommend to council to accept the proposed Code of Conduct as a supplement to the town's rules and regulation. This particular item came from a current MMA workshop that was attended in January by some of the councilors. This will be posted in all public buildings. Councilor Carrasco asked if there is a code of conduct for elected officials. Councilor Clements said there is Robert's rules, but they're not always followed and enforced. Councilor Carrasco said he would like to see something written up. Councilor Nicola said that only the people who voted an official in can take action to have them censured by calling them, going to the newspaper, etc. A motion was made by Councilor Moriarty and seconded by Councilor Vandal to accept the proposed Visitors Code of Conduct. Vote by a show of hands, all in favor, 3-0. Agenda item number 3. We had information discussion regarding the Casella meeting of January 23, 2014. There were no Casella representatives at our meeting, so I suggest that since this meeting had been postponed several times, they might not have been notified for that meeting. This meeting had been postponed 3 times. Mr. Reed said that at the January 23rd meeting, the town expressed their concerns about various subjects, and the answers were to be given at this meeting. Mr. Reed said that he would contact Casella so they can attend a general government roundtable meeting to answer the questions of the council. The meeting will be held on Wednesday, March 26th. Agenda item number 4, landfill extension agreement, discussion of Section 30 modifications and the right to perform a landfill benefit competitive market survey within the 7th year of the contract. Mr. Reed said he and Mr. Pelletier had a discussion with Casella on this, and Casella is anxious to do this. The question is who will conduct the market survey and how it will be paid for. Answers will be had at the meeting with Casella of March 26, 2014. A motion to adjourn was made by Councilor Vandal, seconded by Councilor Moriarty. All in favor? 3-0. The meeting adjourned at 8:25. Respectfully submitted, Evelyn Rivera, recording clerk. And oh yes, there's one more meeting. Monday, March 3rd, a meeting of the General Government Subcommittee was held in the Parent Conference Room. In attendance were myself, Councilor Moriarty, Citizen Member Holly Christo. Also in attendance were Councilors Clements, Councilor Manna, Acting Town Manager Reed, Roger Cowett, and Estelle Cowett. Councilor Vandal was excused. Michael Janes was absent. I called the meeting to order at 7:15. Agenda item number 1, discuss proposed new graffiti bylaw and prepare to submit to council. I discussed the changes suggested by Attorney Caprera. Grammatical corrections were made to section B1, B2, B3, and B4. Councilor Nicola, that's me, said she had spoken to Chief Charette and he was fine with the proposed graffiti bylaw as well. A motion was made by Holly Christo, seconded by Councilor Moriarty, to approve the new graffiti bylaw with the proposed changes and to submit to council for ratification. Vote by a show of hands, 3-0. Motion to adjourn was made by Councilor Moriarty, seconded by Holly Christo, and the meeting adjourned at 7:30. Respectfully submitted, Evelyn Rivera, recording clerk. And oh yes, I have another meeting scheduled for tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock here in the Rice Conference Room, I believe. And that's all I have, and a meeting on March 26th as well. And that meeting on March 26th will be held downstairs in the Veterans Conference Room. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor. B, DPW, Councilor Vandal.
No report and no meeting scheduled, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. C, Education and Human Services. There's no report and no meeting scheduled at this time. Moving on to D,
Excuse me,
Planning.
Mr. Chair,
Certainly.
there are minutes for the EHS.
That's my fault. Thank you.
They were hiding behind the Planning and Development.
Let's see. Tuesday, February 25th, 2014, a meeting of the EHS Subcommittee was held on Tuesday, February 25th, 2014, in the George Parent Conference Room. In attendance were Councilor Marcucci, Councilor Manna, Citizens Member Leanne Pate, and Martina Shea. Also in attendance were Acting Town Manager Bob Reed and Mike Trombley. Councilor Clements was excused. Councilor Marcucci called the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Agenda item number 1, vote to approve the memorandum of agreement for 2014 between the town of Southbridge and Tri-Valley and for the Meals on Wheels program for 12 months at a monthly rental of $100 in compliance with the Southbridge Community Center's policies to submit to council for ratification. Mrs. Trombley stated, it is the same basic contract that has been used in the past. Meals on Wheels have been operated out of the community center for approximately 7 years. They serve 150 meals weekly, plus an additional 30 to 40 meals on Tuesdays and Thursdays. A motion was made by Martina Shea and second by Council Mann with a favorable recommendation to council to approve the memorandum agreement for 2014 with Tri-Valley and Corp. For the Meals on Wheels program for 12 months at a monthly rent of $100 in compliance with the Southbridge Community Center policy. Vote by show of hands, all in favor, 4-0. A motion to adjourn was made by Councilor Manna and second by Leanne Pate. Vote by show of hands, 4-0. Councilor Marcucci adjourned the meeting at 7:04 p.m. and it was respectfully submitted by Evelyn Rivera, the recording clerk. And moving on to D, Planning and Development, Councilor Clements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A Planning and Development subcommittee meeting was held on Tuesday, March 5th, 2014 in the Rice Conference Room. In attendance were myself, subcommittee member Councilor Manna, and citizens members Evelyn Petrelli and Roger Cowett. Also in attendance were Acting Town Manager Reed, Cassandra Ackley, Estelle Cowett, Gus Steves, Maureen Doyle, Dan Butler, Charlie Bickerstaff, Dean Cook, Clifford Spellman, Susan Spellman, and David Payer. Councilor Pelican was excused. Chairwoman we called the meeting at 6 p.m. Had an early meeting. Agenda item number 1 was vote to appoint David Livingood to the Conservation Commission for a two-year term effective immediately through June 30th, 2015, to fill the position due to member resignation and to submit to council for ratification. Mrs. Petrelli said Mr. Livingood would be a good fit for the Conservation Commission. A motion was made by Councilor Manna, seconded by Evelyn Petrelli, with a favorable recommendation to council to approve the appointment of David Livingood to the Conservation Commission to fill a 2-year term to expire June 30th, 2015. Vote by show of hands. All were in favor, 4-0. Agenda item number 2 was to review the Planning Board's recommendation for keeping livestock on less than 5 acres and vote to send to council for ratification. And I read the letter from Mr. Payer, who is the chairman of the Planning Board, on the zoning bylaw amendment. And I would like to actually comment on that because this is something that a lot of the community's been, I'm going off the minute slightly because we had a healthy 1-hour discussion and there's some very small paragraph. And I think it's important that the people know what we were actually what the Planning Board has proposed and what we did in regard to this. So the Planning Board proposed a new recommendation for a new definition in regards to livestock on less than 5 acres. It would fall under Section 300.451, and it reads, the keeping of animals on less than 5 acres, whether for gainful purposes or not, includes chickens, turkeys, ducks, cows, goats, sheep, alpaca, llamas, donkeys, burros, and mules, wild rabbits, and emu, and excludes roosters, pigs, geese, bulls, and oxen. This definition does not include pets such as interior caged birds, cats, dogs, pot-bellied pigs, domesticated rabbits, gerbils, hamsters, caged mice, and guinea pigs. It's quite extensive. And there were some standards that they wanted in place, livestock on less than 5 acre standards. The resident must have so these are what they proposed. And after much discussion, we have some more information going back to them. So this is what their proposal was. The residents must have a permit from the Board of Health. The animals must be kept at least 25 feet from adjacent lots. The animals must have appropriate housing and protection for every season. No roosters, geese, pigs, bulls, or oxen are permitted. Animals must be kept within a fenced area on non-street facing sides of subject lot. A noise plan must be provided. A waste plan must be provided. A feed storage plan must be provided. The number of animals allowed will be determined through the special permit process. And as part of this, they then submitted number 2, which is a new section 502.68 in the table of use regulations. And it would basically be the livestock on less than 5 acres stipulation, and it must comply with the standards. And what they did was give us the table of use standards. And basically, single-family homes and general business zone, light industry, heavy industry, business opportunity districts, I got that one right, BOD, and would be allowed by special permit to have these animals. Multifamily, two-family, retail business, and, the CC, Central Core, I have to remember what the acronyms stand for, would not be allowed even with special permit. So that is where the minutes pretty much pick up. What was of much concern to many in the audience, and has been over the last few months that this has been being hashed out, was single-family homes on 3/4 of an acre or more. Why would people have to go through the special permit process? Potentially, that could be a can of worms, so to speak, in terms of the requirements. Special purpose makes you have to have announcements in the newspapers. You have to have a lot of different components to that. So a lot of the discussion surrounded the fact that if you've got a piece of land that's 3/4, or maybe it's an acre or more, but it's up to 5 acres, why can't you have chickens for the purpose of raising food for yourselves? Everybody is, really mindful these days of having gardens and raising food, and you don't want to, as many towns have been really trying to support this, we don't want to stifle that initiative by people who are taking it in their own hands. But we also want to protect the community. We want to protect those who live in small areas, less than 3/4 of an acre perhaps, downtown core, those types of places. We certainly do want regulations to make sure that you don't have rats or mice from feed storage that isn't adequate, or there isn't a way to get rid of the waste, or all these things came up in this discussion. And again, this is something that's been waiting for a while, so I just want the people at home to know what we discussed. So on that note, we move forward with some of the minutes, and let's see. Mr. Butler expressed his displeasure with the proposed bylaw. He would like to see sites of more than 3/4 of an acre not have to go through the special permit process, as did many in the room. Mr. Cook, who's a member of the Board of Health, agreed with a proposal by Councilor Manna that the word fowls should be separate from livestock because they tend to need a different degree, perhaps, of oversight than larger animals that would be considered livestock. And much of this livestock and fowls are regulated by the Board of Health already. So there are a lot of rules and process already on the books that the Planning Board perhaps wasn't quite aware of, but he did express that the Board of Health has jurisdiction over the rules and regulations and concerns to the animals on people's property. So apart from all that, after much discussion, some of the things that we suggested, one was that we separate fowl from livestock, and nobody seemed to have a problem with that. The other was that we delineate the acreage perhaps in a single-family home. While it's a special permit, perhaps what it should be is that acreage of 3/4 or above would not require a special permit. Perhaps those still under 3/4 of an acre would require a special permit. These were some of the suggestions. And we also asked the Planning Board to define what they meant by the special permit process. Would it be as difficult as other special permit processes when you're building a building or putting in a gas station, perhaps? And they didn't seem to have they didn't think it would be as difficult, but yet they didn't have a plan. So because of all this, we asked that we send this back to the Planning Board, where they could open it up for more discussion and come back and reconsider some of the suggestions that were made. And that's exactly what we did. A motion was made by Roger Cowett, seconded by Councilor Manna, with a favorable recommendation to Council to postpone any action on this agenda item and send it back to the Planning Board for revision. And it was unanimous that we do this, and the Planning Board seemed to be on board. And I'd also like to point out, it was mentioned to us that the Board of Health members had not actually weighed in with the Planning Board on this. So we did ask that when they have their meeting, that they invite the Board of Health to attend, or at least notify the Board of Health when this meeting was happening so that the members could come in and they could have a nice healthy discussion, bring it back to Planning and Development, and hopefully get this fowl livestock bylaw on the books the way it should be. So I want to thank everybody in attendance. That was a really important meeting for the community, so I do appreciate your help on that. Agenda item number 3 was to review the Planning Board's recommendation for a zoning map change on Old Sturbridge Road and vote to send it to Council for ratification. I read the letter from Mr. Payer on the zoning map amendment. Mr. Bickerstaff said that if this area were to change from single family to general business, it would cause big traffic problems and cause the residents much distress. He said that 67 residents signed a petition opposing this request. There's an existing business on this road, but it has been there since 1938, which is before zoning bylaws were in place. A motion was made by Councilor Manna, seconded by Roger Cowett, with a favorable recommendation to Council to accept the Planning Board's recommendation to not expand the general business zone at the intersection of Main Street and Old Sturbridge Road and to submit to Council for ratification, and that was unanimous 4-0 in favor. Agenda item 4 is to review a request for a zoning map change on Worcester Street and vote to send to council for ratification. I read the letter from Mr. Payer again, and Ms. Zackley stated that the difference between general business and light industry, the difference in this instance is that you can have a car lot on light industry but not in general business. Again, much discussion about the area and this change and what it might mean. And after that, there was a motion by Councilor Manna, seconded by Mr. Cowett, with a favorable recommendation to council to recommend that the council send Mr. Dow's request for a zoning change on Worcester Street to the planning board to receive public comment, and the vote was all in favor, 4-0. Agenda item 5, vote to recommend the contract of HAI Architect, Inc. for architectural services for the town's Community Development Block Grant, better known as CDBG, Downtown Facade Improvement Program. Mrs. Ackley said that an RFP was sent out, 3 proposals were received, all applicants were highly advantageous scoring, and HAI Architecture, Inc. was selected to perform the design work. Monies for these projects come from CDBG grants, not tax funds, local tax funds. A motion was made by Councilor Manna, seconded by Mr. Cowett. Favorable recommendation to council to accept the contract with HAI Inc. for the architectural services, and it was all in favor, 4-0. Agenda item 6, discuss results of the Downtown Strategic Financial Implementation Project. Mrs. Ackley said that in order to do an urban renewal, a strategic financial implementation project study had to be done. This was done, and the results have come in. Mrs. Ackley said Ted Carmen from Concord Square Planning and Development, Inc. would be available to go to the council meeting and make a presentation. A lot of work, great book, a lot of information. Looking forward to hopefully some of this coming to fruition. A motion was adjourned. Motion was made by Evelyn Petrelli, seconded by Councilor Manna to adjourn, and we did so at 8:05. Evelyn Rivera, recording clerk. And I apologize for the length, but it was a lot of important chicken talk there, so thank you. We don't have a meeting scheduled at this time.
Thank you, Councilor. Moving on to E, protection of person and property, Councilor Moriarty.
Thank you. A meeting of the Protections of Persons and Property Subcommittee was held on Thursday, February 20, 2014 in the George Parent Conference Room. In attendance were myself, Councilor Nicola, citizen members Jovan and Nash. Also in attendance were Councilors Langevin, Marcucci, Manna, and Clements, Acting Manager Reed, Fire Chief DeFranzo, Deputy Chief Normandin, Dolores Larochelle, Stacy Reno, Thomas Edwards, Roger and Estelle Cowett, Matt Langevin, and firefighters Jeff Langevin, Jonathan Peretti, Steve Matthew, Kelly Manning, Jack Kalanian, John Larochelle, and Derek Lamica. Councilor Carrasco was excused. Called the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Agenda item number 1, update and discussion on ambulance billing. Chief DeFranzo stated that as of November 1st of 2014, we have changed ambulance billing companies to Comstar Billing Service. The chief said he will be presenting the town manager with the requested status update on ambulance revenues. Agenda item number 2, update and discussion on deputy chief position, duties, and policies. Chief DeFranzo said the deputy chief was hired 8 months ago and has been working on getting familiar with our department. The chief gave an overview of the deputy's his duties. He feels that a number 2 person is definitely needed. Agenda item number 3, update and discussion on the secretary's position, duties, and policies. The chief gave an overview of the confidential clerk duties and stated that this position is currently 11 hours a week and that he would like to see it increase to 15 hours per week. Agenda item number 4, update or discussion of open firefighter positions. Chief DeFranzo stated there is an open position due to a firefighter leaving. Applicants and candidates are being reviewed and tested. 11 candidates took the testing, only 5 passed. There are 3 eligible candidates which are being vetted, and 1 will be brought before the town council by the end of March. Motion was made by Councilor Nicola and seconded by Rich Nash to adjourn and move agenda item number 5 and 6 to a future meeting. Those were just discussion items. Vote by show of hands, all in favor, 4-0. The meeting was adjourned at 9:15 p.m. Respectfully submitted, Evelyn Rivera, recording clerk. The subcommittee did meet again this past week, this past Thursday, for more discussion items, and we don't have those meeting minutes with us as yet, but at the next council meeting, we'll read those aloud. Again, those were just discussions and updates, no action items. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. F, Town Manager's Search Committee. As we all know, we voted last time for the consulting firm, so right now there is no update. It's in the consultant's firm's hands. They have to do their due diligence, and then I would assume they will be getting back to us within the next maybe 2-3 weeks and let us know where they are and get things going. So as soon as we have any updates on that, obviously we'll let the council and the public know. Moving on to agenda item number 5, Chairman's announcements. I just basically have one this evening. As everyone has read in the paper, there's a citizens group, We the People, out there that is proceeding forward to look at changing our form of government, and they, quite frankly, have every right to do that. The one thing I do wish is when they try to educate the people, they educate the people on the facts and the truth. Quite frankly, my personal opinion, I'm sure other councilors will eventually during council's forum or something say their piece, but quite frankly, I believe this government is not broken. It's not even close to being broken. Going back to that form of government, quite frankly, is that's a broken government. We're a very open government, this kind of government. People can come to any of our subcommittee meetings. They can speak on behalf. They can come up and speak during our regular council meetings. But quite frankly, this body right here is the body that the people elected to do a job. So if we're not doing our job, that's when you go to the polls and you vote us in or you vote us out. But us, this current body and any other current body, spend many hours. It's not just the 2 meetings a month that you see us on TV and stuff. There's many hours in subcommittees asking a lot of questions that the public can come and participate in it, ask the questions. Trust me, we ask a lot of great questions and we get a lot of answers back, and some that we agree with, some that we don't agree with. But this form of government is not broken. That citizen group that is out there, they have every right to try to change that. I believe, there was a quote in the paper, this is a perfect time to do this while we're in between looking for a town manager. Quite frankly, I think it's detrimental to the town of Southbridge, because any professional that's going to want to come into this community is going to want a little job security and saying, okay, I'm going to invest in the town of Southbridge and bring my knowledge to the town of Southbridge. But when there's a search going on for changing the form of government, that sends the wrong message to the business professional. And that's just my opinion, and I'm sure later on some of the other councilors will tell you how they feel about it. But I just wanted to let everyone know my feelings. And this government is not broken by any means. This government is a good government, and a lot of people spending a lot of time, as they basically signed up to do, is give back to the community and do their due diligence and ask questions and try to represent the people. And that's all I will say on that this evening. And that's the end of my announcements. I'm going to go to agenda item number 6, Town Manager's announcements. Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few announcements. One is maybe not so much an announcement, just in preparation for the next meeting in accordance with the charter. As you can imagine, I've been spending the bulk of my time on the budget, meeting with departments, going over projections. Karen Harnoy, as you can imagine, has just been invaluable. So we'll be working on the projections and also the budget message and reports for the next meeting in compliance with the charter. We'd received notification from the Central Mass Metropolitan Planning Organization, and this is in regard to what's known as the TIP, or the Transportation Improvement Program, where federal funding is available for various transportation items, and I spoke with both Heather Blakely and Sandra Ackley about putting projects on that, and Sandra Ackley has been working on a list with the Redevelopment Authority for some improvements on downtown intersections, Hamilton Street, Hook Street, and La Rochelle Way, Hook Street and Central Street, La Rochelle Way and Central Street to Foster Street, North Street, Foster Street and Central Streets. They'll be working with engineers and the redevelopment authority to add this to the list, and then there will be a lot of advocacy as we move this along, or the town moves this along, to see about getting funding, because there's a great deal of money that can be available through the TIP program, and I imagine some of these intersections may help the downtown program that we're about to see a little bit more on. Lastly, also Sandy Ackley had an announcement to be made regarding the CDBG grant. The town has CDBG funds to redesign the McCann Fields off Henry Street, and we're currently preparing a request for proposals in order to contract with a suitable consultant. As part of taking on this project, we're forming an oversight committee. Some of the members have specific interests in the fields, but we'd like to have at least one member from the community at large. If anyone is interested in serving or wanting more information about it, they should contact the town manager's office or the Economic Development and Planning Office at 508-764-5402. So again, that's if you are interested in being on a committee under the CDBG grant for the redesign of the McCann Fields. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. As you all heard, just make sure all councilors, after we present the budget, we will be asking all council chairs to reach out to Yvonne and start scheduling our meetings so we can proceed with our budget and stuff like that. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Moving on to 7, swearing in and presentations. A, presentation to Rudy DiGregorio by myself, the council chair, and I would ask Councilor Nicole to please join me. Mr. DiGregorio, could I see you up at the podium? Rostrum, please. Quite frankly, I will read the proclamation, but Rudy DiGregorio has been a valuable asset to this community. If anyone has ever followed him with his flower business, he had a great passion for the holiday season, especially Christmas. I remember going in his building as a kid and touring around and seeing all the great Christmas displays, and it got you in the holiday spirit, and it was lifting. So when his business closed and stuff, he still had that great passion. And what he did is he reached out, and he has, I would call them, some very good elves. And when you go downtown during our holiday season, during Christmas time, just look around. Mr. DiGregorio, quite frankly, did a lot of this with help, but it just shows the passion and the desire and the beauty in what he thinks in his vision of the town should be, and brings the joy to the kids during the holiday seasons, and not only the kids, to their families too. I got to say, every year we have our Christmas lighting, and I thank Councilor Clemens, Councilor Nicole, Councilor Manor. They're always very active in that. They have a nice little parade, but that's just one little piece of it. If it wasn't for all the great decorations that we have in town from Mr. DiGregorio in the many, many hours, it's a nice hobby. It keeps him busy, but it also brings joy to him and to our citizens. So with that being said, this is a certificate of appreciation is presented to Rudy DiGregorio, 318 Worcester Street, Southbridge, Mass. The town of Southbridge wishes to express its sincere gratitude for all the creative and festive contributions to the community. They are truly remarkable. With appreciation and best wishes to you from the Town Council and the citizens of Southbridge, signed David Landry, Council Chair, and Acting Town Manager Robert Reed. And I can't express your gratitude of what you've done for the community. And I will say, Mr. DiGregorio doesn't like this. He likes to be behind the scenes. He is truly an elf. So this is a lot for him to come up because, quite frankly, he does it because he loves it. He doesn't want to be recognized, but I believe firmly he should be recognized because the more people that give their time to the community, the better the community will be. So on behalf of the town council, I would like to say thank you very much for all your time, and there you go. I'm going to ask our State Representative Peter Durant to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everybody. One of the first things that when I came to town, I happened to come to town in the wintertime, and so you saw all of the decorations up, and it's really amazing because you see every year they grow, and the amount of space that it takes and the amount of work that it takes to put those together is incredible. And as the chairman said, there's a lot of elves doing a lot of work. And it's not just that, because putting them up is great because it's a lot of fun. It's the beginning of the season. It's taking them down. That's the tough part. And you need a lot of help for that, and taking them up in the snow and putting them away again. And so I commend you for all that work and for all the love that you've put into that. It's really incredible. So I do have a citation from the Massachusetts House of Representatives. Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Rudy DiGregorio in recognition of your commitment to the community of Southbridge and the brightening of the town with your efforts throughout the Christmas season. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors given this 10th day of March, and signed by the Speaker of the House, Robert DeLeo, and myself, State Representative Peter Durant. Thank you. Congratulations.
I would like to address the chair very briefly. The members of this council, our acting town manager, and all who are present in this chamber this evening, including the TV audience. By honoring me with this award this evening, you have automatically honored my family and a great number of people, including corporations and businesses that still believe in the future of Southbridge. I might add, you have honored yourselves as well. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you again, Mr. DiGregorio. Moving on, our B, final report of sparking private investments in downtown Southbridge by Ted Carmen, Concord Square Planning and Development. Ms. Ackley, you have the floor.
I'm going to give a very brief introduction. You know that we do have an approved redevelopment plan for our downtown. And you also know that the purpose of a redevelopment plan is to propose public infrastructure improvements as a way of encouraging or leveraging private investment in buildings and so forth. And the redevelopment authority thought, well, is there any way that we can jumpstart the private investment bit? Because the public infrastructure projects take a long time to develop and have happen. And so as a result, we have a contract with Concord Square Development, and Mr. Carmen is going to discuss his final report with you very briefly. And I'd just like to let you know that As of tomorrow, the report will be on the town's website so that everybody can see it. So
Thank you.
I would like to introduce Mr. Ted Carmen to you.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Thank you, Sandy. Mr. Chairman, councilors, citizens of Southbridge, it's a real pleasure to be here. We've been working on this assignment. We started almost 2 years ago and spent a great deal of time here in the town talking to people, understanding the real estate that's here and looking at the potential. I'm delighted to be here. I'm delighted to be here tonight to give you a brief description of our report. It's particularly gratifying to be here after Mr. Di Gregorio's citation and his wonderful comments about the future of Southbridge, because everything I'm going to say tonight has to do with the potential future of Southbridge and what could change in the future going forward and perhaps how to do that. There really is an opportunity here, and I think the opportunity to a great extent revolves around the location. It revolves around the fact that the river is quite close to the downtown, and it revolves around the fact that you have a remarkable group of buildings right in the center of town, so that you have a quality of buildings here and a quality of downtown that's really quite wonderful and offers the basis for the future. However, it would be silly to think that there are not problems, because over the last, once the 4,000 jobs at American Optical left, there has been a great deal of disinvestment and lack of investment in the downtown. And we're now sitting here several decades later with the results of that, which is a lot of real estate that has not had much money spent on it over the years, and that there are real problems for getting money to move it forward. And the problems are that the renovation costs are high because you have to comply with codes. So as soon as you start working on one of these buildings, it often requires putting in elevators, it requires putting in sprinkler systems, and dealing with egress in ways that are really expensive. Heating systems are often antiquated, electrical systems needing upgrading, and the real problem is that rents are not high enough to support these costs. And another problem is that there are lots of owners. The ownership is largely spread out, or is, to a certain extent, is spread out, and that leads to problems because you can't amass a project of enough size to really make it efficient to put the financing together. This is not unique in Southbridge. It's all over the state, and there are many communities with the same problems. The solutions are complicated. There are solutions, I'm happy to say. They're complicated. I'm here largely because I was at a conference where Sandy was making a presentation about Planter's Envy a number of years ago, the new building that got renovated. And I was making a presentation on 5 buildings that we got renovated in Greenfield, which is a community not unlike Southbridge. 2 owners, 5 buildings, and I'm actually working on a 6th building now that may end up having a hotel in it. And so Sandy thought that bringing the same approach to Southbridge might offer some real promise. And I think the answer is that that's the case. Typically, nothing happens because the problems are so severe, but in Greenfield, some of the buildings in Greenfield had been empty for 30 years. So it was a real effort to make changes there. However, just as in Greenfield, you've got a couple of, one particular really bright spot here, which is the La Metro Bistro that opened 6 months or so ago. I spoke with Jonathan Kraft this afternoon and asked him how it was doing, and he said they were extremely pleased with how it's going, and that in fact they are operating at more than they had projected, 50% ahead of their projections. Now this is I think this goes to show that in Southbridge, if quality is offered, people will respond. He indicated people were driving here from Metro West to come to the restaurant and to hear Marie Paul sing. She has a wonderful voice. And I think it offers great hope for the downtown if enough things can come together to make it work. Well, the good news is that many of the 1900 buildings, circa of the period of 1900, are still intact. And even more important, the downtown still remains the center of the region. It's a high-volume traffic corridor. The hospital and the doctors are here. The lawyers and other professionals are here. The banks are here. Town government is here. You really have not seen a dispersal to the suburbs. When that kind of a dispersal happens, it's very difficult to get the downtown to come back together. The fact that that has not happened is probably the most important thing here. And that brings me to mind to Daniel Burnham, who was a famous architect and planner who lived from 1846 to 1912, and basically from 1890 until 1910, he was extraordinarily important in this country in terms of building new buildings. He designed the Filene's building in Boston. He extended the Washington Mall and was involved in the building of the Lincoln and Jefferson memorials. He designed Union Station in Washington. He came up with the plan for Chicago, which included the whole Lake Michigan waterfront. And what I'd like to share with you is this saying of his that he made many years ago, which I think is important. And what he said was, "Make no little plans, they have no magic to stir men's blood, and probably will not themselves be realized." So I think that that really is a very appropriate way to think about the situation here in Southbridge. The big picture is in place. You are the center of the region. You do have a very good starting place, but it will only happen if there's a big plan and a really significant vision. So our recommendations basically fell into four categories. One is that the community do everything they can to stimulate the renovation of buildings, and that those buildings should have, as often as possible, apartments on the upper floors so there's more activity in the downtown. That additional public infrastructure should be built, in other words, making the roads and the intersections work better, and also in improving the parking behind both sides of Main Street, but particularly behind the north side of Main Street. We think it's also important, and again, if you're thinking big, you need to take the steps. The municipal staff needs to have enough resources to be able to do what needs to be done. And the final recommendation that we have is that the community try to work together to establish a new private entity, which I have tentatively offered the name of as Transformative Investments, Inc., to provide a center of gravity for the work that could be done here. Now, we developed I'm afraid it may not be too clear, we developed an overall concept for the town here that I think that I'd like to share with you, and that is that when you walk out the front door, there's a park across the street, but at the back of the park, it does not connect to the parking lot directly. You actually have to walk across grass to get to the parking lot. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a green pathway from the front door of Town Hall all the way down through the parking lots, across Main Street, through that parking lot, and then connect down to the river? I've had some discussions with Greg Cormier, who owns the land by the river. I think there might be a way with some imagination, and again, if you're thinking big, to have a public park down by the river that could be extraordinarily attractive and would help bring the river into the downtown and make people think about the downtown in the context of being near the river. It would be a really lovely place to go in the summertime to have lunch, for instance. We also believe that a good deal of focus should be paid to the parking area that's right behind Main Street on the north, and particularly to the alleyways that connect that to Main Street, of which there are at least two, and to Hamilton, which has a couple. And if all of that was renovated, revitalized, somewhat reorganized, so that it was a whole lot easier for people who are driving through, because lots of people drive through every single day on both Central Street and on Main Street. If they could stop easily and if it was easy to get to Main Street, imagine what that would do for the businesses. So we think that from a public infrastructure point of view, a focus on that parking lot and on a connection with the river could really make a big difference. We also think that you might think in the middle of the parking lot about having some kind of a plaza or a gazebo, some activities there. There's room for it, some green space, so that behind Main Street is an attractive area that people will find attractive. So I'm now going to talk about some of the problems with renovating buildings. As I indicated, the difficulty with renovations here is that the rents don't support any significant capital improvements to the buildings, which is why there have not been capital improvements and why things have continued to get worse. There are, however, as we discovered in Greenfield, ways that you can bring various programs to bear. These include the state historic tax credit, the federal historic tax credit, and new market tax credits. When you put those three tax credits together, and you can cover almost half the cost of renovation. And if you can cover half the cost of renovation, you can probably get the balance through a combination of developer equity plus a loan from the banks, which is what we did in Greenfield. There is also a program, HUD has a program called the HUD 108 loan program, which is available here through the Department of Housing and Community Development. And there are EDF grants. Now, one of the positive things that came out of our work was that we have an application that's been presented to DHCD to do an upgrade of 3 Central Street, which is owned by Hunter Foote, a new property owner in downtown. And the idea is that the combination of this grant plus other financing will enable him to renovate the second floor into 7 really nice apartments. That's step one. Step two is that in July, the town can go back and get another $750,000 for another building. So our thought is that by the summer, we'll get this package into DHCD. Hopefully it will be approved, and that will go forward. And then in the summertime, an RFP can go out, another building or 2 buildings could be selected, and this could be done again. So those things are in the works now. What I would say about these programs, however, is that the process of getting the money is arduous, to say the least. It's complicated, it takes time. The state historic tax credits have to be applied for separately from the federal credits. The new market credits are a different animal completely. It takes a lot of effort, which means it takes money up front to make them happen. And you must have, in order to justify the amount of effort, there needs to be a certain scale to what you're doing. It's very hard to use these programs on 1 or 2 buildings because it's just, the effort up front is too expensive and nobody can afford to pay for it. In Greenfield, we were able to get these 5 buildings done sort of as, it was done with 2 owners, but it was done kind of as a package, and the town put money up to help get that started, and there was a nonprofit group in in Greenfield that advanced over $100,000 to help that front-end cost. So you can see with those kind of numbers that this is not a minor task to undertake a real change. Now, the good news, I think another piece of good news here, is that there is a significant piece of property for sale in downtown Southbridge. The 3 buildings owned, or 2 buildings owned by Mr. Carpasso. They're on the market. They're being sold by a broker in Boston. They're extremely nice buildings. I believe that they were substantially renovated 25 years ago, so they had new systems at that point. The price that he's asking is a high price, but it appears that the rents and the operating costs make it a significantly attractive investment. Now, it's probably not an attractive investment if that's all that's going to happen. If somebody looks at Southbridge and says, what's the future going to be? And the answer is the future is going to be an extension of the past, then someone's willingness to buy these buildings and maybe make some investment in them might be limited. On the other hand, if the conclusion was that there's a plan and a mechanism to really make a difference in the downtown, then these could be really an attractive investment. So it really depends on the perception of the future. And our big idea in terms of Daniel Burnham, our big idea in the report may be difficult, maybe it's too difficult, but our big idea is that for a group of community-minded citizens, private citizens, get together with the banks and the businesses and try to raise a seed amount of capital of up to $1 million. And to use that $1 million to A, buy these buildings, which will give a huge footprint in the downtown. Secondly, to use several $100,000 of that money to help start other projects and perhaps even be a partner with the owners of other projects. And I'm thinking specifically of the corner of Hamilton Street and Main Street and the 3 or 4 buildings that wrap around that corner. If that could be done, if the plaza behind them could be done, and then that's all tied into a connection to the river, imagine how people would feel driving into town along Main Street and thinking that now there are nice shops and I can find an easy place to park. It looks to me, now we had to sign a non-disclosure agreement on looking at the financing for this building, but my looking at those numbers indicates that this could really be a pretty attractive investment, and it could be a way to stimulate some big thinking about the downtown. So that's, in a nutshell, what we have proposed. We produced a very pretty lengthy report. It's got a great deal of detail in it about the various programs and how you use them. It's got to-do lists to take the steps to move things forward. It's got examples of how it worked in other places, and we developed some pro formas to show specifically how some of these deals could work. It's been, I think the key to keep in mind with all of that is the fact that the downtown really has some big advantages. A, the quality of the buildings. B, the fact that you are the center of the region, that the roads intersect right here. I'm not mentioning other things that, like the meeting center, the convention center, and so forth. And you have public spirit here. And so our urging is that this public spirit that Mr. Di Gregorio represents so substantially be captured and put at service to a really broad-based approach to the downtown. And at Concord Square, I'm really very happy to have been here working on this for the last year plus, and I'd be happy to come back to future meetings to talk about the details of how all the pieces could fit together. Thank you.
Thank you. Any councilors have any questions or anything?
I have a question.
Councilor Nicola.
Thank you. What is 3 Central Street?
3 Central Street is, when you go past the corner, it's the first one. It's, Fidel's is in 3, is the,
That's
that's
it?
Fidel's,
Okay.
yes.
We were trying to figure out if it was up or the other end.
Well, it's that area. You know, there are other things going on that are pretty interesting on Central Street and
Oh, yeah.
et cetera. So, you know, the really important thing would be to have a comprehensive plan, but you've got to have capital. It can't happen without capital, because otherwise you will not get the leverage that you need. But once you have that, I think I can assure you that you will get a lot of support. For instance, WBDC in the Worcester Business Development Corp. You're in their umbrella. They just closed a $35 million project for the Telegraph and Gazette buildings in downtown Worcester, in the center of Worcester. Just closed, as in a week or so ago. It was very complicated. I worked with them on that project, doing the pro formas and so forth. And if a program could be put together here that involves some local capital, I think they would be very happy to help. And I know that DHCD is thrilled to think about things happening here and will do whatever they can to help as well.
Thank you.
All set, Council?
Yes, I am, right now.
Councilor comments?
Thank you. I just wanted to ask Mrs. Ackley, we had mentioned, I think, at the meeting about getting this document up on the website, or will that be done so other people out in the community can have an idea? Since it's a large document and they're not going to be... Super. All right, tomorrow. It's a great document. It's a lot of good information in there. So thank you for your efforts here. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Carmen. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 8, Citizens Forum. Is there any citizens that would like to come up and speak tonight on something that's not on the agenda? Please state your name and address for the records, please. Just give Mr. Carmen a second.
Hi, Maureen Doyle, 771 Lebanon Hill. I'm here to announce the programming for the Southbridge Historical Society. Our first one is this Wednesday, March 12th. The Historical Society, the Southbridge Historical Society encourages awareness of local history. And so we have a program called Rescue in Albania. This Wednesday. We have a big Albanian population in Southbridge, and so it might be interesting to people. Our programs are at 7 p.m. at the Art Center on Main Street, 111 Main Street. And we have one, our next one, if you want to write it down, is on April 9th. These are all Wednesdays, second Wednesday of the month. Also at 7 p.m. It will be Worcester Then and Now, and the last one of the spring programming season is May 14th, Southbridge, a national player. All at 7 p.m. At the Art Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
How are you? My name is John Dufresne, 7 Prospect Street. I'm here to talk about a proposed dog park in Southbridge. I'm here accompanied by a couple committee members. Some people are supporting me. Yes. Thank you. I'm here to talk about some locations, some funding options, and really just to get the word out to the community. This is a community project, and I need a lot of support. One of the locations that's primary right now is Joe Capillo Park. The back end of it, I prefer the whole thing, but what was told to me is that's not going to happen. So the back end of it, and then along with the reconstruction of Henry Street, the back end, it might come out better. Other possible areas would be Royal Oaks, which is private. I would have to contact them and talk to them about it. The Res on High Street, I think that would be the best location in town. It's fenced in already. It has a building. It would be beautiful for a dog park. Anybody has any new locations? More than willing to hear. Some of the funding options we want to do is a good yard sale. Get together, sell, and the proceeds go into the funding for this dog park. Other things would be donation jars, soliciting, and just really getting the word out door to door, go to businesses, ask for advertising, possibly even put banners up on the fences of the dog park. Just really trying to get some creative ideas to fund this project. Is my estimate, it would probably cost like $20,000 to get the thing going. Fencing being the most expensive part, be it that it's town property. If it's private property, then you know how that goes. The committee and I would like to discuss, and we will probably go about the route of a nonprofit organization. I feel like that would be best for controlling funds and people donating, being tax exempt. But that's where we're at now. We are in the beginning stages. We need a lot of work. We have gotten a lot of work done, but we really need town support, really need community support. And you can locate us at our Facebook page, Southbridge Dog Park at facebook.com. We have about 1,000 people that liked it, so there is quite a support going. The last time I checked, the registry for dogs in Southbridge was a little over 1,000, 1,060. So there is a good community of dog owners in this town that register their dogs. Census put it at near 3,000. So I feel a good thing would be you need your dog registered and vaccinated to come into this dog park. It would be an incentive if you wanted to bring your dog to the dog park to register your dog through the town and get it vaccinated through the vets. So that'd be a good byproduct of having the dog park. Through all this, I've gotten a lot of talk about vicious dogs. And I understand the concern, but I want to point out that a dog park is not a new thing. This is something that's all across the world. Understandably, situations happen and they have to be managed properly. That would become about an educational type thing. If anybody has any questions or wants to see what a dog park is like, I suggest you YouTube dog park. There's some fabulous videos you can watch. I think a lot of misconceptions is the barking or the aggressive behavior. After watching some of these videos or attending a dog park, you will see that these are just myths. These are just things people think of when they think of a bunch of dogs coming together. It is quite the contrary. They run, they play, and they're happy. As a dog owner, I love seeing my dog happy. It brings joy to me to see her run around with her tail wagging and tongue out. That is a joy that I want to bring to my community and the residents of it. And that's what I'm doing. That's my mission. If anybody wants to participate in the committee, you can email southbridgedogpark@gmail.com, and you can help us do something that's really beneficial for this town. A lot of the equipment we discussed, like the fencing, the signs, the trash containers, possibly could be donated through companies. And one particular thing that would be needed would be a water fountain for not only the people but the dogs. We're kind of hoping that we can go about getting somebody to build it for free, maybe a Bay Path or a school or type of business that would do that for us. But that's what I want. I'm a 30-year-old resident of Southbridge, Mass, and I'm saying I think we need a dog park. That is all.
Any councils? I'll start on this side. Councilor Nicola.
Thank you. Mr. Dufresne, who's going to clean the dog park?
Like I said, there are a lot of dog parks across the country, and it is posed that it is the owner's responsibility to pick up after your dog and control your dog. If I had it my way and, finances weren't a problem, then you would hire somebody. I believe even if it's on town property, I wouldn't want to impose the DPW to do our work or pick up after us. I believe it should be the owner's responsibility for everything of their dog, the control, the waste pickup, and the handling. But as far as who's going to do it officially when it opens, I can't say.
Okay. That would be my biggest concern, to tell you the truth.
Really?
I was just curious as to whether or not there was a plan in the works for that. If there was
Well-
actually maintenance to this dog park that you guys were going to be doing.
So I have a committee of about 12 to 15 people, so we could put it on ourselves to do that. We could use funds to pay one of the mini landscaping companies in this town to do so, and still impose that it's the owner's responsibility to pick up after them. But I couldn't quite tell you what our plan is now. I know from my research that it is the owner's responsibility. That's usually imposed by signs posted of the dog park.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Moriarty.
Thank you. Just as a note, I've talked to John a handful of times about this and went to their meeting a week or two ago where a lot of this was discussed, and I wanted to kind of point out and thank, I know Ron Plouffe as the rec director and Sandy Ackley and people from the rec committee and such have all had some conversations with this, and that's been helpful. I know one of the things John had talked about, not tonight, but in the past was Putnam, for example, just opened up a dog park this year, and they're reaching out to people that have put that together to kind of find the blueprint. And I know there's been a lot of dialogue, and I'm sure it'll continue in terms of whether or not, this would depend partially if it's on town land or private property as well, but public park versus a membership park and those sort of things. So certainly it's still early. I think it's one of the things he's noted, and the fine details would still be ironed out in terms of maintenance and that sort of thing. But in general, I think similar to the gentleman from Concord Square, with kind of paraphrasing that quote that he had offered about kind of dreaming big and thinking big is the only way to kind of go and make something happen. And so I congratulate John on all the work he's done, because far too often we talk about how people need to step up and people don't for the most part. But this is something obviously that John cares a great deal about, and has single-handedly really put together a lot of stuff and has raised a good chunk of change already to put this thing to happen. So, believe very much so in where you can make a difference, you should, and that's one thing that John is working on. So, again, thanks for that, and hopefully we get more support for you.
Thank you.
Councilor Carrasco.
Yeah, just one thing, John. I just want to say thank you for being passionate and getting involved. Truthfully, I do have questions, but I understand that you're in the beginning stages, so I would like to see more of the development of the park and the rules and regs. And, I understand you mentioned in regards to, an incentive for people to register. One of my questions would be, are you going to have somebody down there kind of pushing people to register, So those, I do have questions, but I really want to thank you for taking the initiative and getting involved with our community and getting involved and really trying to do something good. And you have a passion for dogs, and you have a passion for our park, and I thank you for bringing that to the table tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Can I make one note?
Certainly.
I would also like to ask the community their opinion on whether or not we should make it a membership park or a public park. Even being if it is on town property, I believe a membership park, in my opinion, would not only just help raise funds for the maintenance of it, but also get good dog owners, people who really care about their dog, that would pay a fee, a yearly fee to attend and to be part of this community of dog owners. So I would like to ask if that is a good choice. Should it be public for everybody, or should it be membership? That's something I am still debating on.
Anyone else? I want to thank you tonight. I think it's great that you are, again, trying to invest in the community and spearhead a project that could be very valuable to the community. So I'm looking forward to you coming before us again and giving us an update on where we're going. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council.
Is there anyone else that would like to come before us on Citizens Forum and speak? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to agenda item number 9, vote to appoint David Livingood to the Conservation Committee for a 2-year term effective immediately through June 30th, 2015 to fill position left vacated due to membership resignation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Langevin?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Nicola?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Carrasco?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Agenda item number 10, vote to ratify the memorandum of agreement for 2014 between the town of Southbridge and Tri-Valley, Inc. for Meals on Wheels program for 12 months at a monthly rent of $100 in compliance with the Southbridge Community Center policies. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Langevin?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Nicola?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Carrasco?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 11, vote to ratify the contract between the town of Southbridge and Valley Communications to install and upgrade existing equipment to new equipment in the cable public studio in the town hall in the amount of $69,380. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Councilor Carrasco.
I just got 2 things. I just want to reiterate that these monies are not taxpayer monies. This is an account that has been set up and money has been put aside. And second, according to the documentation that we did receive, that this project was sent out to bid, and there was a bidder, only one bidder, but it was sent out to bid. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councilor Clements.
To Councilor Carrasco's point, it's the cable subscriber monies. So it's those who are already subscribing to cable. These monies come out of that contract that we have with cable, and that's how we're able to upgrade and have more equipment and provide more services to the cable viewers out there. I just want to make sure they got that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Nicola?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Carrasco?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Langevin?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. And number 12, vote to accept the planning board's recommendation not to expand the general business zone at the intersection of Main Street and Old Sturbridge Road.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Councilor Carrasco? No?
Sorry.
Sure, certainly.
This original request was for the purpose of changing the zoning so that there could be a home beauty salon. Okay? One thing, if we change this zoning and this person goes out of business in 3, 5, 10 years, it's probably going to be irreversible that we're never going to be able to get it back to a 2-family. Also, while we were meeting with one of the committees, the purpose was brought up that the state doesn't allow home beauty salons in a single-family or a 2-family area because of the fact of the chemicals now are deemed too dangerous. Or at least that's what we were told. If this is changed, the situation isn't going to be changed. It's still going to be in a 2-family area because all the families around this house are still 2-family. We presented the petition with 65 signatures against this particular change of the zone. If you know our neighborhood, you know that this is an island, basically. There are only two entrances or exits from our particular area. One is from Old Sturbridge Road and Main Street, and the other is through Old Sturbridge Road and Sturbridge. Now, if you've been up those roads at any time, you know the traffic is horrendous to get from Old Sturbridge Road to Main Street. It's also, if you go to the other end, the road is only approximately 1/2 as wide as it is in Southbridge. There are no other exits. If this is changed to general business, and a business comes in and wants to conform to all the requirements of the town, there will be no stopping it. And the traffic up there now is really bad. So, you know, it's just too dangerous to change the zone, in our belief. Also, as all of this property that is being changed abuts single-family homes. We're trying to get more houses in Southbridge. There is a little bit of building room, but it wouldn't be desirable if we had a Burger King or a McDonald's in the area. And also right in back of our area, they're starting to build about 25 or 30 new homes, which we want to continue this building process. So we'd appreciate very much if you would defeat this change to our zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councils have any questions on this? Go ahead, citizen.
Cliff Spellman, 45 Glenwood Avenue, Southbridge. My wife and I purchased a home in the area 36 years ago because it was a nice residential area in town, and it still remains that way, and we'd like to keep it that way in the future as well. If this request was approved, it would open the entire street of Old Sturbridge Road to a business, not just this one business that was brought up as a beauty salon. So I went around and got a lot of those signatures that Mr. Bickerstaff just talked about, and everyone I asked was opposed to this request to change it to general business. Again, it would increase the traffic in the area immensely if we had several businesses on that street, so we don't need that. It's very difficult, as Mr. Bickerstaff said, to get out either end of Old Sturbridge Village as it is now. So I ask you to follow the recommendations of the Planning Board and the Planning and Development Subcommittee, and please consider to deny this request of changing the zoning to general business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Spellman. Councilor Clements.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate what Mr. Spellman said. The Planning and Development Committee did, after much consideration and on discussion on this topic, we did recommend to uphold the not to expand the general business zone in this area for many compelling reasons. So that's our recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Councilor Nicola.
Thank you. I have a question. I noticed in the notes from the meeting, Planning and Development meeting, that you mentioned that there was one business there that had been there since like 1938, which I'm assuming is a car business.
Well, it was New England Auto Body, and
Right.
it's now, if I may, and it's now, of course, Hillside Collision. So
But
some would say that that's...
Isn't there also an architecture or drafting firm that you can see as you're going on, as you're heading towards Sturbridge on the main drag that sits on the right?
That might be beyond the Sturbridge line. That's actually Green Hill Engineering, which is a
Yeah,
engineering,
that's
that's not a drive, it's
All right, an
a
engineering
outdoor
firm.
environmental.
Okay.
Green Hill, but that's in Sturbridge.
That's
That's in
Sturbridge, that's
Sturbridge.
not Southbridge.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Any other questions? Councilor Moriarty.
And just as a clarification, a yes vote on this is actually a vote to follow the recommendation not to make the change. So it sounds somewhat counterintuitive in a way, but just wanted to kind of note that yes means no in this case.
Correct. Thank you, Councilor.
Should have been at the meeting.
Any other questions? Councilor Vandal.
Why would we want to ruin a nice neighborhood by putting the business in it? You know, there's a lot of places downtown if you want to run a business, you know, you can rent. There's a lot of empty stores and storefront. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Just remember, as Council Moriarty stated, yes really actually does mean no in this case. With that being said, roll call, please.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Nicola?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Carrasco?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Langevin?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 13. Vote to recommend that the proposed zoning map change on Worcester Street be sent back to the planning board to receive public comment.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, discussions on this? I think we kind of went over that in the meeting minutes and stuff, so.
It'll come back.
It will come back and see us soon. Roll call, please.
Counselor Nicola?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Carrasco?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Langevin?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Agenda item number 14, vote to ratify the agreement between the town of Southbridge and HAI Architect, Inc. for architectural services for the town community development block grant downtown vacate improvement program. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Before we make that motion, you might want to correct the agenda item because it's architectural, not agricultural services.
Yeah.
He read it correct. He read it the way
He
she
read
did,
it
so he doesn't
correctly,
have to
but the
Correctly,
word
right,
is,
right.
the written word says agricultural.
So luckily, we don't have to amend
You want to amend that? Just
it. You don't have to.
making that.
You read it
Yeah.
correctly.
I did.
Hopefully it's printed correctly.
Correctly. With that being said, any discussion on this? Certainly, Council Clements.
Just to clarify, it's part of the CDBG grant monies. This is architectural services to help design for those projects. So when we give a grant out for an awning or a facade work or something, we need somebody there to be able to design that and make sure it's going to be in the town's interest to comply with all that we have and require. So this money is through the grant. It's not any monies that are coming directly from the local taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Anyone else? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Carrasco?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Langevin?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Nicola?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Agenda item number 15, vote to ratify the notice to proceed submitted by Stantec Consulting Services Inc. for Airport Reconstruction Phase 2 according to professional service agreement dated June 11, 2013. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Councilor Nicola?
Thank you. I have a couple of questions regarding this document. I understand that this was put together when former town manager Chris Clark was here, and it looks like the same exact document. My concern are the dates on this document. Tend to be a little old, and I just want to be sure that there's no problem with this, that the monies involved and the dates and all of that are okay.
Mr. Reed?
Well, I believe that the next agenda item will appropriate the money for this, and we have confirmed the amount with Stantec, but I think the original agreement was for roughly 194, and if you see there was language in here, I think that when this might have been put on hold by the council, that only, 29,000 would be spent. So this 163 in the next agenda item represents the difference in order to fund through the notice of proceed to continue the work under the contract.
But all the dates are up to date. Is that right?
Yeah, per the notice to proceed, yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Clements?
Thank you. I guess my question follows up to Councilor Nicola's. So nothing has changed? I mean, the extension, I see we have a member here
Yeah,
from Stantec,
absolutely.
so I don't know if you want to, that was my question to this item. I have no problem with it as long as everything remains the same. I don't know if you want to answer that publicly and...
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Urban Deck with Stantec. Yes, that is correct. Nothing in the contract language has changed.
Okay. Then the only other question on the contract time, the estimated completion date of 12/31/14. How does this affect, if we vote on this, how does that affect? Do we have some sort of extension? Is it built in that I didn't notice?
The intent is that if we get the notice to proceed this week, we can bid this project out by the middle of the summer, and the project will start by August or September. It can be finished by the end of the year.
Okay, so you feel comfortable on your side?
We do.
Okay. Thank you. I'm good.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Carrasco?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Langevin?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Nicola?
Yes.
Counselor Vando?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. At this time, I'm just going to take a quick 5-minute recess, and then we'll reconvene. So, thank you. Agenda item number 16, vote to appropriate $163,243.73 from the receipt reserve account number 6902, insurance in excess of $20,000 to the airport tornado damage account number 9085. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Councilor Clements.
Thank you. I would just like to point out that with this vote especially, the first one, number 15, and now with number 16, I believe with the vote that was taken at the last council meeting to continue the airport as an airport, this should lay to rest any of those comments and talk that's been going about that says that we want to turn it into a landfill. Certainly, our commitment is to the future of the airport as part of Southbridge as a community. So I hope that that will reflect it this evening. But I just wanted to point that out, that we are serious about doing the right thing for this community and making sure there is a long future and a profitable one, hopefully, as well with the airport. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Nicola.
Thank you. I'd like to say that as the chair of the General Government Subcommittee that would be looking at these items that have already really been vetted through our due diligence in looking at all of the options as to the future of the airport and our determination to continue as an airport, that I will be canceling the meeting for tomorrow evening that would be to discuss these two items. They are obviously on the agenda this evening, and they're perfectly updated, so they'll be fine. Therefore, there will be no subcommittee meeting tomorrow evening for general government, and I just wanted to make that clear right now. I'll say it again at my councilors' forum as well, just to confirm that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Again, I can reiterate basically what the two councilors said, and I was a big one that really said, hey, let's just do our homework and bring everything to the table. It was never out of malice for me on the airport. It was just looking outside the box and seeing if there's something different we can do. So I am very comfortable moving forward with the airport. When we get some new ownership and leadership up there, I believe we're going to head it in the right direction. And this council can, quite frankly, said that we did due diligence and looked at every avenue before we just went ahead. So I got this is my full support on this. With that being said, roll call, please.
Councillor Clements?
Yes.
Councillor Langevin?
Yes.
Councillor Manna?
Yes.
Councillor Moriarty?
Yes.
Councillor Nicola?
Yes.
Councillor Vandal?
Yes.
Councillor Carrasco?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Agenda item number 17, vote to approve the proposed Visitors Code of Conduct as a supplement to the town personnel rules and regulations. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on this? Council Moriarty.
Just, I don't have the email in front of me, but is this the amended version that Attorney Caprara had looked at? 'Cause I know he had small change in language.
Councilman, I believe
Thank
it
you,
is.
Mr. Chair, through you. Looking at this does not look like the amended version, but the email is actually attached to the Visitors Code of Conduct with the recommendations that Attorney Caprara did make.
So I guess what I would do then is I would make a motion to amend the Code of Conduct as recommended by Attorney Caprara.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion on the amendment brought forward?
Should we read what that amended part is?
Yeah, yeah, we can. What's that?
Do you want me to read it out?
Yeah, Council Moria, go ahead.
So in this document, what was added is the new phrase would include, violators who do not comply with this policy may be asked to leave the premises. In the event that a violator does not immediately leave the premises after being asked to do so, the violator will be considered a, quote, trespasser, unquote, and will be subject to arrest and removal by the police. So that's the amended language as suggested by legal counsel.
Councilor Manna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It also suggests that a modification to the last line above never mind. I read it wrong.
It's been a long night.
It's good.
You're all set? Council Clements?
Thanks. For those who don't know what we're talking about, and while you're watching this, when we were at MMA, there was a seminar called Civility in Town Hall, I believe, one of the many seminars we attended. And one of the proposals there or one of the towns there actually had a visitor's code of conduct. There are many times when people get a little bit irate, they come into a public building or a private building, professional building, anywhere in the workplace it can happen. And perhaps they're rude, disrespectful, maybe they get a little violent or such. And it's not that there aren't rules already in place. Obviously there are. We can call the police if there really is something wrong. But it's nice perhaps to have something that we can have posted. It really sets a tone for what we expect from visitors and conduct amongst ourselves, even right within the town hall in terms of how we treat each other, how we work with each other. And just a few things, the expected conduct. So if you come to the town hall or the library or any public building, basically is what we're looking at here, the town of Southbridge, avoid causing disturbances or disruptions, show respect for others, building facilities and personal property of others, use common courtesy when interacting with others, do not engage in any lewd or offensive behavior, any form of violence is prohibited, smoking, drinking alcohol, or appearing to be under the influence of an illegal substance is prohibited. And obviously you saw what we said that the initial paper just said repeated violators may result in permanent suspension of facility privileges, and they did just read what Attorney Caprera suggested, which is we're a little more vocal in the fact that there'll be trespassers and the police will be called. So it's just something nice. There's a little more to it. Feel free to take a look. I'm sure if it passes here tonight, it'll be posted. But I appreciate your time let the people know what we're talking about. Thank you.
Any other questions? We're going to roll call. This is on the amended motion.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Langevin?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Nicola?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Carrasco?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Now, as amended, Councilor Moriarty, you want to just reread it to make sure we're all set and
Sure.
so everyone knows what's
Do
happening?
you want the entire language or just the
No,
the
just
amended
that,
part?
that one part so everyone knows,
Okay.
and then,
So again, the addition basically adds this one sentence, which is, in the event that a violator does not immediately leave the premises after being asked to do so, the violator will be considered a, quote, trespasser, unquote, and will be subject to arrest and removal by the police.
and as Councilor Clements basically stated, this will be posted in all public buildings, which I appreciate the ladies bringing this back from MMA. It's definitely justified. With that being said, so we just made the amendment. Now I need a motion as amended.
So moved. Second.
Any other discussion on this? Councilor Moriarty.
Just briefly, in conversation, and this is only loosely tied into this, in conversation today with a town employee, in light of the recent bank robberies that have gone on intermittently over the last several months, it was just a discussion where they kind of suggested that, in particular in the collector's office, perhaps in addition to this, some other steps possibly taken to ensure their safety or the safety of the funds that are collected there, whether that's through any sort of divider or something to that effect. So more or less just kind of food for thought as it was kind of bantered about to me earlier today, and thought I would pass that along while we're kind of sort of on that topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Nicola?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Carrasco?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Langevin?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you, councilors. Moving on, agenda item 18, vote to approve the proposed graffiti bylaw as prepared by General Government's Subcommittee on March 3rd, 2014. This will be the first reading. I have a motion.
Second.
And I'm going to ask Council Manning, and I believe, Council Manning, you did bring this up a long time ago, and I appreciate you putting your time and effort into this, and as it went full circle, and now here we are doing the process, so I thank you, and I ask you for your assistance on this, please.
Thank you. First of all, I'd
Thank
like
you.
to say this was brought up to me by a citizen in the community, and I kind of took the lead on it, did some research, and came up with this and brought it forward. So we really have the citizen to thank for this. So,
Thank you.
okay. It's long, so bear with me. Graffiti bylaw as prepared at General Government Subcommittee, March 3rd, 2014. First reading, 3/10/14 for the Town Council. Section 7-503, graffiti. Section 7-503.1, removal of graffiti. Graffiti is defined as any word, figure, or painted design that is marked, etched, scratched, drawn, painted, pasted, or otherwise affixed to or any surface, regardless of the nature of material of the structural component, to the extent the same was not authorized in advance by the owner thereof. Section 7-503.2, property owner responsibility. A, the removal of graffiti shall be the responsibility of the owner of said property. B, the owner of said property shall be required to remove the graffiti within 14 days of the written notice from the Board of Health or its authorized agent, served upon the owner or the owner's authorized agent. The notice given to the property owner or its authorized agent shall be in writing and contain an order to remove the graffiti. The notice to the property owner or authorized agent shall contain the following information. 1, the location of property that has been vandalized. 2, a clear description of the graffiti. 3, a statement that the graffiti must be removed within 14 days after receipt of notice. 4, a statement of explaining if graffiti is not removed within the allotted 14 days, the property will be subject to the removal, cost, and penalty provisions of Section 7-503.2. 5, notification of an owner's right to a hearing pursuant to Section 7-503.2. Copies of all referenced sections of the bylaw shall be attached to said notice. Section 7-503.3, failure to remove graffiti. A, the property owner or its authorized agent has a right to a hearing before the Board of Health or its authorized agent within 7 days after receipt of such notice. B, if an owner or the owner's authorized agent has not requested a hearing within 7 days after receiving notice and fails or refuses to remove graffiti within the given time frame provided in Section 7-503.3, the town of Southbridge may enter upon the property and remove the graffiti, to which it will be the property's owner's responsibility for the cost of said removal along with any fines imposed. C, if an owner of the owner's authorized agent has not requested a hearing within 7 days after receiving notice and fails or refuses to remove graffiti within the given time frame provided in Section 7-503.3, the property owner will be subject to a fine of $300. D, if an owner or the owner's authorized agent has not requested a hearing within 7 days after receiving notice and fails or refuses to remove graffiti within the given time frame provided in Section 7-503.3, the town of Southbridge may enter upon the property and remove the graffiti, to which it will be the property owner's responsibility for the cost of said removal along with any fines imposed. E, if an owner or the owner's authorized agent has been ordered to remove said graffiti after a hearing and fails to comply with said order within 14 days, the property owner will be subject to a fine of $300. The town of Southbridge may enter upon said property and remove the graffiti, to which it will be the property owner's responsibility for the cost of said removal. Section 7-503-4, applicable laws. Nothing in this bylaw shall be construed to limit in any way the town of Southbridge's authority to order the abatement of a nuisance as set forth in Mass General Law, Chapter 111, Section 123, as noted below, or any other general laws. I, Section 123 of the Mass General Law. Said board shall order the owner or occupant of any private premises at his own expense to remove any nuisance, source of filth, or cause of sickness found thereon within 24 hours or within such other time as considers reasonable after notice, and an owner or occupant shall forfeit not more than $1,000 for every day during which he knowingly violates such order. And that's it. Thank you.
We'll start on this side. Councilor Nicola.
Thank you. I just wanted to state that prior to this coming through the General Government Subcommittee, Town Attorney Caprera did review this and was comfortable with it. And also the Chief Charette also reviewed it and called me. He wasn't able to attend the General Government Subcommittee meeting, but he wanted me to know that he was perfectly comfortable with it. He saw no problem with it. And beyond that, I just want to make one remark regarding this bylaw. I feel it's unfortunate that we have to put the onus on the property owner. However, catching somebody who does this kind of destruction is very difficult, and it really does need to be in the purview of the owner of the property, and hopefully, you know, if somebody is caught, they can make restitution. I just wanted to say that I feel for the property owner, but I understand why it has to be this way. That's all I had. Thank you.
Councilor Carrasco.
Through you, Mr. Chair, maybe to Ms. Manna, Councilor Manna, excuse me. I have a question in regards to the days. It's not clear if it's calendar days or is it business days, because I'm assuming it would be business days, because as a town we would be issuing the notices, but I'm not sure how this is coming across. If it's just calendar days, because it's just very specific in regards to 14 days. So, you know, if this happens on a Saturday, you know, does that clock start ticking then if somebody notices it, or is it when the initial report is made? You know, we have a lot of absentee landlords, and I'm not sure how that would go. That's my only concern and question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, thank you, Councilor Carrasco. Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe the bylaws that I read in here don't say business days or calendar days. I could be mistaken. I do believe that if a notice is sent to the property owner, it would be within the notice and the date of the receipt of the notice. I would believe that the number of days would begin. Would that be up to the Board of Health?
That's
They
right.
would be issuing the citations, or the police department? I'm not sure how that would go.
I would believe, Mr. Reed, could you help us out on this, but I would believe it would be the police department.
Oh, I can check in the bylaws and see if there's ever any definition of days, but in my experience, it's generally calendar days.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't, like I said, I've never seen anything in our bylaws that say you have 7 business days or you have 7 calendar days. It says days.
Council comments?
On that thought, obviously, if something happens over a weekend, I doubt, and if the landlord isn't available, they can't issue them one at that moment, so then they'd mail it. And when they mail it, it wouldn't happen until the secretary, whoever is mailing them, so they actually can probably get more than 14 days. I think it's kind of irrelevant on that. I think it's going to be from when that notice goes out, or the ticket is actually physically handed, whichever comes first. It's like when you get if you got a speeding ticket, it's 30 days. It's not whether it was a Sunday you got it or a Monday you got it, it's 30 days. That would be my interpretation, which I think should stand.
Councilor Carrasco, then Councilor Nicola.
The only question I would have is it's who would be issuing it? If it's the police department, is it one of our town clerk, citation? So I'm assuming it would be the police department. So that's all I had. That's my only concern. Thank you.
Councilor Nicola.
Thank you. I think that if you look at Section 7-503.2, Counselor B, it's a written notice from the Board of Health. Okay? And to answer your question about calendar days versus business days, unless a document states business days, the assumption is it's a calendar day. You never see calendar days written out. You would see business days, though. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. Councilor Moriarty.
Thank you. Just briefly, I wanted to kind of just, similar to something that Councilor Nicola had alluded to, and myself, Councilor Nicola, and I think others had kind of expressed this during the subcommittee meeting. My lone piece of heartburn with this is kind of penalizing the victim, essentially, is what we are doing. With that said, I've tried to brainstorm and think and look around and come up with a different method in terms of holding somebody accountable that should be held accountable, and knowing the statistics in terms of apprehending the graffiti artist, and then even from there, the way that the legal system works in terms of actually getting that money out of them, pretty slim chances. So I think one of the benefits of this being a bylaw where we have the 3 readings, basically we've got 6 weeks or so before this would go through that 3rd and final reading, and I'll continue to kind of chew on that, but by all means, anyone in the public who has thoughts on that, I'm sure all the councilors would be amenable to hearing their thoughts as to how we could make that work to more or less not penalize a business owner or a private owner whose building was tagged or otherwise graffitied. Because while they do have a responsibility to keep their property clean, at the same time, if every month somebody does something, then that gets overbearing. Other than that, I just wanted to kind of note that there are 2 components to this that I think are important. One is just that it's considered graffiti only if it was not authorized in advance by the owner, and also just based on the way the law works, obviously. This would not be something that would apply to previously existing graffiti. You can't kind of retroactively go back. So that tagging tour that happened several months ago, if I own a business and my building was tagged with that Lord thing, technically they would not be on the hook for this because even if this passed, a law can't go backwards, more or less. So just kind of wanted to point those things out for the public. Thank you.
Councilor Mann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I would like to say that we did have that tag and graffiti incident over the course of the summer, and we had a lot of graffiti damage, vandalism done in town. There were property owners that did clean up, but if you notice, there are a lot of that graffiti, and I want to say those are mostly your landlords that aren't in town. We need to hold the property owners responsible. And not only the tag and the graffiti, and then it's tagged by somebody else is what it is, I believe. When that's done to your property, let it be a 3-decker, a business, a corporate, any property, it brings down your property value if you don't clean it up. So, and it also gives people the perception of gang activity in town, and we're trying to bring people in town. We don't want to, and we want our property values to stay up. We don't want our property values to go down. Not only is their property value going down, but everybody else's too if you don't keep your property kept up. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Just quickly in reference, obviously Attorney Caprera did review this, and he did make reference on it. He says 3 references to the owner's authorized agent and one reference to the owner's responsibilities appear in paragraphs B2, B3, and B4 on the second page of the Exhibit A. I believe the apostrophe should be inserted after R in the word owners to accurately denote the positive tense of owners. So, I mean, this is the first reading. It's a typo error. I'm sure it'll be all cleaned up, but just in reference to that so everyone knows. Councilor Nicole.
Just so that you know, we did discuss that in the general government, and we made those corrections. So I will ask that Yvonne take a look at that and just, because she does know about it. Might have just been missed.
Yeah, there's a lot of typing going on.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Nicola?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
No.
Counselor Carrasco?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Langevin?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
6 yes, 1 no.
Thank you. Agenda item number 19, vote to approve the proposed sign bylaw changes as prepared by the General Government Subcommittee meeting on January 16, 2014. This will be the second reading, and I will refer to Councilor Moriarty.
Thank you.
I have a motion first.
Sure. So moved.
Second.
Councilor Moriarty.
Thank you. So what we have here on page 6, 9-202-6, subsection F, we are adding, quote, display window signs. Signs on the surface of or inside display windows lighted only by the building illumination and covering no more than, there's a typo contradiction there. It should say 25% in both ends, both written and numerically, of the display window are allowed. Subsection G, changing the word civil to civic. Non-commercial signs, buildings occupied solely for the political, civic, philanthropic, educational, religious, or other non-commercial purposes are exempt from regulations except that they are subject to public safety requirements. As a note, the word political was also stricken from that because that had its own subsection. At the last meeting, we had voted on that.
Yep.
Subsection H, seasonal decorative signs. Seasonal decorative signs and residential decorative signs are exempt from regulations except that they are subject to the public safety requirements. Subsection I, electronic message center, means any sign on which the characters, letters, or illustrations can be changed automatically or through electronic or mechanical means. Electronic message centers include time and temperature signs. On page 7, 902-9, subsection J, yard/garage sale signs, not to exceed 5 square feet, displayed on private property and limited to 1 to each premise. Not to be erected earlier than 3. Again, there's another typo issue here. It should be 30 days, not, it's alphabetically it's wrong, but numerically it's correct. That 30 days preceding the sale. Actually, that was actually 3 originally, was it not? Right, because you're not going to put up a yard sale sign a month ahead of time. So the 0 should have been a closed parentheses. So not to be erected earlier than 3 days preceding the sale and shall be removed within 24 hours following the sale. 9-202-10, signs which were legally erected before adaptation of this bylaw shall not be voluntarily rebuilt, altered, or relocated without conforming to this bylaw.
Discussion. Councilor Manna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I still don't feel comfortable with leaving out the verbiage for the storefront signage stuck to windows. I do not feel comfortable with that at all. So with that, I would like to make an amendment, and I would like to add what was once on here, originally page 4, 9-202-5, section C. I would like to add the following. Permanent signs affixed to the surface of the window shall not cover no more than 25% of the window area.
A second on that?
Point of order. Seeing as how that was voted upon already, and it would take a member of the prevailing side to bring that motion back.
That is correct.
These are readings, aren't they?
They're readings.
But it was still a vote on an amendment, a binding vote.
Then I believe your amendment in subcommittee should not have gone through because there was already a vote on that, and you voted to amend that. So this should all be null and void, technically.
I would defer to council.
Mr. Reed, can you help us out on that one? Yeah. Councilor Clements.
Thank you. Actually, I wasn't here at the last meeting because I would have voted against changing that for the reasons that Councilor Manna had mentioned. I believe it was December 9th or something like that, where there was a meeting of general government. This issue came up, and just because the mix changed, at that time, after a lot of discussion, 25% was voted on and suggested to send up to council. And then when Councilor Moriarty said he hadn't been able to participate, he wanted to come down, suddenly the mix changed in the meeting, and there was only 3 people to vote, and it was a 2-1 back to eliminating. So it's kind of said, I would like to see in the future, I mean, perhaps there's nothing we can do about it now, but I would like to see that when we're changing things in subcommittee or suggesting a change, what we do in subcommittee is recommend it up to council. So if you can't just pretend it didn't exist already at a previous meeting down there and recommend it up to council, and all we did, it came up here for a vote, that bylaw, and what we did was accommodate a councilor who wanted more discussion, and we sent it back to subcommittee. And I don't think the intent was just to go back to subcommittee so that so that we could rehash what was already done. I mean, we talk about it and all that's great, but I just think the way it was done, the way it ended up being, seems a little bit not what our subcommittee is supposed to be about. If you're going to suggest a different change other than what's already been approved, then it should be listed as both when it comes up to council so that we can see the differences and not just, here's the recommended document. Well, there was a recommended document 2 weeks before that, and suddenly, because of another meeting and a different mix of voters, citizens members and such, it changed. Actually, the citizens member who voted with Councilor Moriarty that second time, he was against, he wanted less, others wanted more, and in the spirit of compromise, we came up with 25%. And I got that feeling from reading the minutes and having discussion with the chair of that committee and all that. That's not what happened in the next general government subcommittee. So I'm disappointed in the process, not that that makes a difference, but I'm speaking my mind on it because I am disappointed in the process. I think that was, well, I won't use that word that used to be used a lot. It starts with a D. And we'll just move forward with this. But I think we're at readings and we can keep making amendments. And if we can keep making amendments and recommendation down in subcommittee, why can't we keep doing amendments? And we only had 5 councilors here at the last meeting voting on a bylaw that's affecting the entire citizen. Perhaps we should have postponed the vote on that bylaw, as a matter of fact, since there was only a representation of 5 out of 9. So to change our laws with 5 councilors, there should have been more. There should have been a bigger majority here to discuss it at least, whichever way it goes. But anyway, so I don't know where we can be on this. I just had to get that off because I did not get to speak about it at the last meeting, which I would have voted to keep it at 25% and perhaps I believe there's another councilor who was interested in that, but having not been here at the meetings, didn't get the chance to vote. So it is what it is. A vote happens and we move on. But when it comes to the entire community, what we're doing here, there should have been better representation for this bylaw. So.
All set.
I'm done.
Councilor Manna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do not believe that this reading will be legal because of what happened in subcommittee in regards to Councilor Moriarty making the statement that we cannot make another amendment to it. It has to be brought up by the prevailing side. If he can make that amendment down in subcommittee, then the same rules should apply right up here. And so maybe we should recommend that Attorney Caprera take a look at this and go by his recommendation and hold this off until we get a recommendation from Attorney Caprera.
You all set right now? Thank you. Councilor Moriarty.
Thank you. Just for clarification purposes, one, at the meeting in which the council decided to send this back to subcommittee, it was certainly not my request to send it back to subcommittee. I simply was preparing to offer amendments which I had disseminated to everybody prior as well as that night in writing. And the council decided rather than going through that process, they felt it would be more appropriate to send it back to subcommittee. That was the council's wish, and that's what would happen. In terms of that general government subcommittee, while I was not at the prior subcommittee meeting due to a family emergency, my understanding is The vote that was taken is of different language as to what Citizen Member Janes proposed, motioned, and what passed at that last subcommittee meeting. My point is this, that simply when a motion itself passes or fails, it is upon somebody from that prevailing side that can bring that motion back. However, the motion that Citizen Member Janes made at subcommittee was not the same motion that had been made at a prior meeting, according to meeting minutes. He had made a different motion. I don't have the meeting minutes in front of me off the top of with me, but so the meeting prior that I was not in attendance for, according to the meeting minutes, was not stating to remove that subsection entirely. Whereas at the meeting where I was in attendance for with Citizen Member Janes, granted there were only 3 members, why others did not attend is upon them, same as the last council meeting. But what my point is, again, in terms of the way this works, you can't bring back a motion that has already been weighed upon without the prevailing side doing so. You could make a different motion, and that may be weighed upon. So that's my point. Thank you.
Councilor Nicola.
Thank you. I was going to let this go. I try to let a lot of stuff go, but I wanted to say this. That whole situation, if you don't make a meeting, and all of us have missed meetings for many reasons, some valid, some not. It shouldn't matter whether your reason is valid or not valid. If you don't make the meeting, you pretty much remove your right to weigh in. I made a decision because of the situation and brought that back to a general government subcommittee meeting. I should not have done that. I should have left it as it was, and we should have moved on based on the recommendations of the subcommittee. I have never dialed it in, ever, in 9 years. I have never said to a counselor, this is what I'd like you to say on my behalf, or this is what I have that I want added. That's not right. If you can't make the meeting, you forfeit your input at that meeting. And I should have gone with the initial, this is the subcommittee's recommendation, vote on this, and take it there. It wasn't only up to me, but at the end of the day, it really was. So, you know, that also has to be taken into consideration here. And when we make a decision, and if you're going to have the attorney, and that's up to you, look at this and the validity and all of that. But we actually had a recommendation from almost a complete subcommittee, and we should have gone with what we had. And in the future, because I know I'm not done with general government subcommittee meetings, that's what I'm going to do. If you can't attend the meeting, that's okay. I mean, people have reasons, but that's it. You know, you can't be, I'm not coming to the meeting, here's my stuff. I'm not coming to the meeting, here on a cell phone is what I want you to say or go do in my behalf. No, you attend or you don't attend. That really is, in a lot of ways, a violation of an open meeting law, in my opinion. So in the future, I'm not going to do that. If you come to the meeting, great. If you don't make the meeting, too bad for you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Basically, I'm just going to quickly chime in because when this really all started way back a while ago, because it seems like we've been doing this forever, I was on vacation when that happened, and I do remember it got referred back, and you know, we try to do our homework in our subcommittees and stuff like that, and quite frankly, I will say Councilor Nicola hit it right on the head on that. When we get elected to serve. That means we have to be available as many meetings as possible, and quite frankly, Monday through Thursday, we're straight out. Some weeks, no, but most of the time we're straight out. So you have to try to make those meetings as much as possible. As much as I appreciate the citizens participating in those subcommittees, quite frankly, their vote is just to move it to upstairs to the council floor. Then it's us as councils, elected officials, we need to act on it. And it's sad because I got caught in one of those dilemmas last year when I was PPP chair of one specific meeting. It was me and one citizens member, and there was no other councils there, and I felt horrible because the bottom line is we're the ones where the buck stops. And I got a little scrutinized for that and saying, oh, you're trying to stall this and that. But no, that was not my thought. My thought was it's one councilor and one citizen member, but the citizen member vote is just to go bring it upstairs, really. And I was the only representation of that subcommittee at the time, so I didn't feel comfortable, so I backed it. And I see some of that stuff happening this year when you are the chair, and I try to attend as many meetings as I can, but quite frankly, I'm human. We have lives. So when you get appointed and put on subcommittee meetings, that's your commitment. That is your commitment. And I see the same faces all the time at the subcommittee meetings, and then I see the ones that it's almost camera time. And that's what happens. And I knew this was going to happen tonight. I knew this was going to happen because last week, quite frankly, again, due to circumstances, we had 5 people here. We had a quorum. We did our business. Now, we're at the reading, and so be it. Now other people want to chime in, and they have every right to chime in. As I said, and I will say this again, and I do take my job serious, I think somewhere along the way, to get through these things, we need the spirit of compromise a little. Because we are spinning our wheels and spinning our wheels and spinning our wheels on signs. They're important. But tell me, and if I'm around, I want to see who's going to go and measure the windows and the signage and stay up to date on this stuff. Because we're spending hours on this, hours. On, just quite frankly, it's people's opinions, which they're valuable, but really, let's try to move forward. It's been going back to subcommittees, it's been to this, that. I mean, this group wasn't here last time, but this is here this time. I mean, we're not getting anything done. So all I ask the council, please, in the spirit of compromising, let's try to move on. This is the second reading. We have one more reading. Councilor Nicole is absolutely correct. If you are that passionate about something, you better attend that subcommittee meeting and let your voice be heard. Otherwise, you really don't have a voice, except if we're going to do it up here. And quite frankly, when we do it up here, we're supposed to be doing our work. Really, the discussion's all downstairs or upstairs by then. We did our homework. Let's roll. But here we are. We're going to be here another hour and a half discussing and trying to get along and see who's right and who's wrong, instead of saying, okay, let's have the spirit of compromise and let's try to move government forward. So whatever the direction this body would like, I would really like to move on with the second reading, and hopefully we work as a unit and understand and respect each other's opinions and try to find that balance, because really, we are spending hours on something that no one, and if anyone tells me they're going to follow this, they're all lying. They're just lying. And that's all I have to say, Councilor Nicole.
I just wanted to add that you mentioned in the spirit of compromise, it struck me, the first of the general government subcommittee meeting where we first vetted the sign bylaw was all about the spirit of compromise, because this thing was all over the map, and people actually hated some parts of it, loved some parts of it, and worked towards a compromise, which I thought was great. But that was then, and this is now.
Councilor Moriarty, then Councilor Carrasco.
I just wanted to note for the record that certainly I agree with the comments made in terms of a duty to attend subcommittee meetings. And in fact, outside of Councilor Manna, Councilor Manna leads the charge in terms of the number of meetings. She has attended more than a greater percentage of meetings than anybody else. I'm second. Just wanted to point that out. In terms that I'm not going to apologize for missing this meeting. Clearly, I am passionate about it. However, in that case, I was in a hospital in Boston with my sister on her deathbed, so I will not apologize for that. I made a choice, and as far as I'm concerned, and anybody can disagree with me, I will stand by that choice 1,000 times over. Simply, in terms of the open meeting law concern, it would not be a violation in that I had emailed, while at that hospital, each and every member of the council my thoughts. Granted, again, I was not in attendance, and shame on me, that's fine. However, knowing that I would not be able to attend due to extreme circumstances, I still went forward and took the time to put that together in order to not be derelict in those duties. I take it very seriously. Unfortunately, not everybody else seems to at times. There are a few that are in the 20% in terms of how often they get to a meeting. So, in that regard, that's the stuff that I call bunk on. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
And duly noted, Counselor, I understand what you went through. And I always said, family is first. So you don't have to apologize. But the bottom line is we just need to move forward one way or the other. So, Counselor Carrasco?
Yes, I just wanted to make note of some of the comments that were made in regards to the passion and the service and the commission and the oath that we took in regards to making these meetings. I just wanted to, and I'm glad Councilor Moriarty did step up because Councilor Moriarty is a dedicated counselor, as many on this council. He was prepared to present the changes. Unfortunately, the situation that was before him did not allow him to make that meeting. And I remember being here on the town council on camera when he was ready again to present those changes to all of us. And it was our recommendation. It was not his motion. It was not his recommendation to go through these changes. I'm in total agreement with Councilor Langevin, our chair. We need to move on. We're debating signage 10%, 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%. In reality, there's other things that we need to accomplish as a council, and we're wasting, I think, valuable time here. I agree we need to move on, but I did not like the intonation of the conversations that we were having on this council floor, and especially for the public to hear in regards to somebody not making a meeting when his intention was to be there. And I just want to reiterate that he was prepared to be there, and unfortunately the circumstances at hand did not permit him to be there. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Councilor
With
Nicola.
a little more clarification, which was the only reason that meeting was held a second time, was in deference to Councilor Moriarty and his changes. But his changes did not include what has come forward, which is to delete a complete part of the bylaw. That was not one of his changes. We added almost everything that he had for changes. And the only reason we had a second subcommittee meeting, Councilor Carrasco, was because of the circumstances behind why he could not attend it. And the fact that we were not going to vet, he had numerous changes there. It was not a place to start talking one by one in front up here. And that's the only reason that we had a second meeting. But I had no intention of going into that meeting so that things could be clipped out of there that had already been recommended to bring up to this floor. That's the clarification I want to make. And at no time am I accusing him of dereliction of duty because he was where he was supposed to be. I'm simply saying that no matter what, there are times when I had a heart attack 2 years ago. Sorry I couldn't make a town council meeting. But with that, I take my licks. If I can't be here, oh well. That's the way it is. And in the future, that, in my subcommittee, that's going to be the way it is. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Councilor Clements.
I will take responsibility for being supportive of going back to subcommittee in a way that just because we had a list of about a dozen changes. However, in the future, I won't be. I would prefer we sit up here for 3 or 4 hours and vet in front of the public what needs to be vetted, because the people get to hear whatever it is we want to vet. And I think that was the downfall of what happened here. I think while it was vetted nicely in subcommittee to begin with, and it was a compromise, and I move on by saying the reason I think that having no restrictions on windows in our community for businesses, because then you can have things like a social service agency having big, giant, temporary vinyl signs on the windows saying, vote here, register, which isn't bad in most respects, but when it's on your main retail street and you've got these big fake signs, and I like the organization, I just don't like the way things look in the windows for the community. I don't think it sets a proper tone. So it's in that vein that I was opposed, or that I supported the sign bylaw committee's recommendation to have some type of restriction on the glass. I'm all for equal rights and freedoms and all that good stuff, but it would seem like at times lately we seem to be more concerned about everybody being able to do what they want than putting a few restrictions in our community to make it better for the entirety. And that concerns me, that we're going to be so free and liberal that the community, there'll be no structure. So having said that, there were other things. The signboards, 2 feet by 4 feet, I thought we were going to make that a little bit bigger because a 2-foot sign was not big for a sandwich board of a event, a nonprofit organization, and that for some reason is still 2 by 4. There were a number of things in here that I don't agree with, but that's the premise for at least some type of compromise on the percentage. I was being respectful to the sign bylaw committee who did a lot of work on this, and yet, we're back to zero, and anybody can cover their windows with whatever they want. So thank you for listening. I appreciate it, but I will certainly sit up here for 6 hours if I have to and vet it, because that's what my job is.
Thank you. Councilor Vandal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I said it at subcommittee. It's their windows. Either they own the building or they rent. If they rent, it's still their building. I don't care what they put in their windows. I don't care if they paint the windows black. It's got nothing to do with us. You got a few people up here that want to run everything, it seems. And I don't agree with that. It's their windows. We shouldn't have anything to say about their windows. If it doesn't look proper, close your eyes. If you like it, fine. But we shouldn't be, giving people orders to put this at 25%, 50%. I looked around at some of the buildings since this came up, and a lot of people have a lot of, signs and advertisement in their windows. That's their business. That's not ours. We got enough to take care of than worrying about how much you can put in the windows. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this? Now, in the spirit of trying to move forward, hopefully we can. Again, Councilor Mann has a motion to amend it, to put it back out there. Are we going to move forward, or are we going to put this and go back to our attorneys? I just want to know what direction this council wants to do at this point. Because again, you know what? 2 weeks from now, Councilor Marcucci is going to be probably back, and she'll have a different opinion. Everyone stated their opinions, and not like everyone's wrong, but let's listen to ourselves and say, how can we move forward? Because, wow. So what would this council like to do? Right now, Councilor Mann has to amend it. Do I have any other input on this? Councilor Nicola.
Well, we had 2 window sign bylaws in here. There were 2. There's this one that's here to add, the one that's up front, add display window sign, sign on the surface of or inside display, blah, 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 no more than 10. Actually, it's take 25, the 10 out. It's supposed to say 25% of the display window area allowed. There was 2. One stayed, and one's gone.
Correct.
Am I right?
Yes.
In the interest of compromise.
Yes.
I'm going with that. I'm going with that because you know what? I disagree with Councilor Vandal in one respect. Why, are we, trying to lord over people with what's going in their windows? Because it's a sign bylaw. It's a bylaw. And we're not the sheriff, and we're not the chief, and we're not the police, and we're not the Board of Health, but we are tasked with looking at the bylaws, okay? We don't enforce them. We just review them, change them, revise them, whatever. And it'll be up to somebody else to enforce whatever it is. I'm going to go with one and not with the other in the interest of compromise, and that's how I plan on voting tonight. So I'm going to go with the proposed signed bylaws changes as they've been prepared, hopefully for the last time. Thank you.
Anyone else on this discussion? Not seeing any. I appreciate you giving me.
Appreciate you too.
I am ready to proceed forward also with, again, spirit of compromise to move forward on this as written right now, second reading, because in 2 weeks we'll be back with the third reading. Any other councils?
Just for clarification,
Yes, council.
currently you have a motion, I don't know if there was a second or not, but that would either have to be withdrawn or a decision would have to be made. If the decision is to go forward with the current amendment, I will not take part in the vote because I don't believe it's legal. Thank you.
Councilman Manna?
I'll make a motion to remove my motion to amend.
Okay. And was it seconded on that one? I don't know if I caught that. I don't-
removes the first, the second.
Yeah. So it's been removed. So now we're back to the original as read by Councilor Moriarty for the second reading. Is there any other discussion on this? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Nicola?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
No.
Counselor Carrasco?
No.
Counselor Clements?
No.
Counselor Langevin?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
No.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yeah.
3 yes, 4 no.
Motion doesn't pass. Okay.
Hate you all. I'm not having another meeting on it, I'll tell you that.
Moving on.
About it.
Agenda item number 20, vote to approve the proposed bylaw changes as prepared by the Bylaw Review Committee and approved at General Government Subcommittee meeting on November 25th, 2013. This is the third and final reading. Councilor Nicola, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
I'm going to read through just the changes, and some of them are only changes in their add-ins. Reference sheet to highlight changes recommended at General Government Subcommittee dated March 3rd, 2014, and reviewed by the town attorney. Add graffiti bylaw in Chapter 7, quote, preservation of the public peace and order, end quote, under Section 500, beginning on page 72, Section 503. If the graffiti section is approved, all other changes in red indicate number changes to sections only. Nothing else has been changed to the subsequent sections. Do you want me to read all of it or just the changes?
Just the changes, Councilor.
Page 72, these are in regard to the graffiti bylaw. So if this bylaw does go through after 3 readings, we will be adding Section 7-503, graffiti. Add Section 7-503.1, removal of graffiti. Add Section 7-503.2, property owner responsibility. Page 73, add Section 7-503.3, failure to remove graffiti. Add Section 7-503.4, applicable laws. Section 7-503, noise control to Section 7-504 includes 7-504.1 and 7-504.2. Pages 74, 75, 77, 75, 76, and 77, Section 7503, Noise Control, to Section 7-504, includes 7-504.2 to 504.5. Pages 77, 78, 79, Section 7-504, Alarm Systems, change to 7-504, includes 7-505.5 to 7-505.5. 7505.1 to 7505.5. Pages 78, 79, 80, 81, Section 7-505, Fire Regulations, change to 7-506, includes 7-506.1 to 7-506.6. Page 81, Section 7-506, Camping Fine, change to Section 7-507. Pages 81, 82, 83, 84, Section 7-507, Sex Offender Residency, change to Section 7-508, includes 708.1 to 708.5. Page 93, Section 9-201.3, at end of Section A, add refer to fee schedule and remove dollar amounts. Page 98, Section 9-202, regulation of signs, note, sign bylaw changes are pending approval by Town Council. Second reading is this evening, so it looks like we'll be deleting that. Page 102, Section 10-101.1, change to read, quote, garbage or mixed garbage and rubbish shall be stored in receptacles with tight-fitting covers. Said receptacles and covers shall be of metal or other durable rodent-proof material. Such containers may remain upon any sidewalk or street in the town from 12 noon the day prior to 12 noon the day following trash collection, end quote. Section 10-101.2, wording change to read, quote, plastic bags shall be used to store garbage or mixed rubbish and garbage in receptacles with tight-fitting covers, end quote, and remove the rest of the paragraph. Section 10-101.3, remove, quote, that contains 3 or more dwelling units, end quote. Page 102, 103, Section 10-102, remove, quote, that contains 3 or more dwelling units, end quote. Section 10-103.3, remove, quote, unit if the stairs, stairways, or landing are not used by another occupant, end quote. On page 72, okay, this is just breaking it down to what it is. That's everything.
Thank you, Counselor. Any discussion? Counselor Manna.
Thank you. I really am very concerned about only leaving this section of the youth protection curfew on page 69, remove the first sentences and keep only town council may invoke and remove the youth protection curfew after their discretion. Council Moriarty had made statements about a Supreme Court decision here in Massachusetts that overturned an actual bylaw, but he was right in one sense, but he didn't read the full reading. So I just want to clarify some things. I really, really stress, I believe we need something besides we can go to council anytime and basically ask them for a curfew. So I did some research on this after reading Councilor Moriarty's his article, his sound off, or his letter to the editor, whatever it was, to quote me, that's what it was, in the paper. And according to masscases.com, in the conclusion of the ruling that Councilor Moriarty was referring to, the Supreme Court, Judicial Court of Massachusetts overturned one such curfew. It's a case involving a Lowell juvenile in Lowell, Massachusetts, and he was out after curfew, and basically what happened was he was arrested, and he was brought to jail, and he was incarcerated. So I'm going to read this. According to masscases.com, in the conclusion of the ruling, it is so stated as follows. Therefore, the criminal penalties resulting from the violations of the curfew ordinance violate the fundamental right of liberty possessed by minors within the Commonwealth under the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights. Also found on the First Amendment Center.org, it was the criminal penalties that was deemed unconstitutional. Now, the criminal penalties mean the arrest part, where the juvenile actually got arrested and it was incarcerated. Not the hours that were being enforced in the ordinance. The Massachusetts Judicial Supreme Court, in which this case was decided, upheld the civil penalty that was contained in the curfew, according to the First Amendment.org site. Also cited in the article from the First Amendment Center.org was that a portion of the curfew was reasonable, balanced, and narrowly tailored for flexibility when acting to protect children. The court's ruling was also recognized that the city's ordinance allows a police officer to approach a person who appears to be a minor on the street late and suspected of violating the ordinance and ask for identification. The district attorney in Middlesex made a statement that despite the rejection of the criminal sanctions, the court agreed that the curfew's hours and the age established for the minors were narrowly tailored to the legitimate, compelling goals of the ordinance, which is to protect underage children and deter them from participating in harmful activity. I'm just concerned that if we take all the verbiage out of this, that we're not going to have anything set in place. And we're making such great strides on our juvenile delinquency in our town with the programs that we have. And this is a tool that our police department can use to pick up a minor and bring them back to their parent. And by using that, they can also, if it's an ongoing, continuing thing with the same juvenile, then they can see that something could possibly be wrong, and then they can report it. I believe that something should be kept in here besides just having somebody come back to us. So I would like to make an amendment that we remove this section and have it looked at separately so our police department can fully weigh in on this, because I don't believe our police department fully weighed in on this.
Councilor Nicola?
Well, you're making a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I've got to wait for somebody to make a motion on that. I haven't made the motion. Okay. Now discussion. Thank you. I'm a little concerned, Counselor. I'm not quite sure what you want to do. The youth protection curfew is not coming out of the bylaws. It's staying in the bylaws. All that we removed was a lot of language that was ahead of it. The bylaw, the youth protection bylaw remains. It just had a description of what it was that we took out. And we left, it's there.
Correct. You're correct in saying that. It says town council may invoke and remove the youth protection curfew at their discretion. So at any time, there's nothing in there for the police to use. They would have to come back to council.
No, that's not the case. It's still there. There's quite a bit. It's lengthy. It is lengthy, a lengthy bylaw. The only thing you're seeing here are changes. But the only thing we took out was like the preamble to it, left this in, and then after it is the actual bylaw. The bylaw is still intact.
That's not how I'm reading this. I'm reading this totally different. I'm reading this, remove first sentences and keep only town council may invoke
From
and
the
remove
first
the
sentence,
youth perfection.
Councilor Manna.
Yes, and keep only town council may invoke and remove the youth protection curfew at their discretion. That's how I'm reading that.
Well, the whole bylaw is there. There's a whole section on the youth protection curfew. It's 2 pages. It's in place. All we did was take out this big wordy preamble to this sentence, left this sentence in as the only part of the first sentence, and then after that follows this big, huge youth protection curfew bylaw. It's in there. This
But
isn't
it's
the
not-
only part of the
It's
of
only
the thing.
enforceable if the police come to us and ask us to invoke it. And I believe this should be left in there
Well, that's
altogether.
That's not what you're asking. What we took out had nothing to do with removing the police's authority to go and invoke the bylaw. The only thing we did was put this in so that the council can be included in this. But what happens is the police come to the council and say, we want to invoke the youth protection curfew. The council votes on it, boom, it's in.
So if the police need it done that night or the next day, they have to wait for our next meeting.
It's already invoked.
It's already, as it stands right now, it's in place.
No, I have to respectfully disagree with you, Councilor Nicola, because it says here clearly, remove the first sentences and keep only, town council may invoke and remove the youth protection curfew at their discretion.
That's true. But right now, the youth protection curfew is in place. We have not removed it. The council has not voted to remove the curfew. It's in place.
That's not what I'm reading here.
Well,
So-
you're reading wrong. I'm trying to clarify it for you.
Then
All
it-
this is saying is that the council can invoke or remove it at their discretion. That's part of it. But right now, if you were to pick up the phone and call the police department, they're going to tell you that the youth protection curfew is in place. We did not revoke it.
It's in place right now.
Yes.
Until we do this reading. And then when this reading comes, they have to come to us. That's the way I am reading this.
Well, you're reading it wrong. Right now, it's in place, and it will continue to be in place until somebody makes a motion and enough members of the council decide, or the police come forward and say, you know what, we don't need it right now. We'd like you to remove the youth protection curfew. Or the council wants to remove the youth protection curfew. It's in place. We're not flying blind right now. If you call the police chief, he'll let you know that. All we're doing is taking out some wording and just making sure that the council's right to invoke and remove it is still in the wording. And then it reads through the whole curfew. We're not doing anything all we're doing is cleaning up some of the language in the bylaw. But we're not taking away any of the council's authority, and we're not taking away any of the police department's authority.
I apologize. I still respectfully disagree, though, because I'm reading it differently. What I see in the words here, to me, tells me that they need to come to us to invoke it, and then they need to come to us to take it away. So I believe, after the third reading, if this passes, then if this goes through, every time, they're going to have to come to us to invoke the curfew. This is how I'm reading it.
The next time the police come to us to discuss the youth protection curfew would be to ask us to remove it. They're not going to, it's not like we vote tonight and all of a sudden it falls off the end of the face of the earth. You're incorrect. I'm telling you, it's been in place for at least the 9 years I've been on council.
And I understand that.
And it will continue. We're not making any changes and saying we're taking it away. We're just taking away some language that was just basically flowery language to say why we felt the need, why we felt it was important to have a youth protection curfew. We don't need that. All you need to do is say, here it is. We're doing it, and these are the guidelines behind it, and those are still in the bylaw. That's all we did.
That's not how I'm reading it.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm not going to be supporting your motion, because that's why. Thank you.
Council Moriarty.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, because it has been a little confusing as to what exactly the motion on the floor is, if I may, whether it's through Councilor Manna, through yourself, or the recording secretary, as to what the actual motion is at the moment.
The motion was to remove this section and review it separately and to have the police input because of the way I was reading it.
Okay, so in the spirit of due diligence and compromise, the great compromise, I would support that motion at this time.
You're all set right now?
Yes, thank you.
Councilor Clements.
I'm trying to remember a number of meetings back on this. There was some movement afoot to remove the entire
Right.
section. So if I may ask Councilor Nicola, where it says remove first sentences in the bylaws, got the big bylaws out here, 7501, because I am also, especially after hearing some of that information, I'm, very much in favor of keeping something in place. It's a tool. As I said, we're fortunate to have a tool, or this is a perk in our community. I believe that, to keep things under control as best we can when it may get out of control. And I'm not the only one that thinks that, obviously. So I'm curious, what exactly are you saying we remove? Because it's very undefined. Remove first sentences, keep only town council, because that's not in here yet. So what sentences are we removing from this?
What was removed, Counselor, is a very long preamble
It's
that
right here.
says, basically, or a couple sentences, basically, sometimes you need to protect kids from themselves, blah, 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 blah. I don't care about that in a bylaw. I don't need a reason from there. What I need a reason from is when Police Chief Charette comes and says, hey, we've got too many gangs, or we've got this, or we got that, or whatever his reasoning is, and we look at it, and as a council, we say, okay, we're going to invoke the youth protection curfew. We take a vote, and it comes into play. It is in play right now and has been in play for a very long time.
I'm aware of that.
Nobody is removing the youth protection curfew. All we did was clean up some of the language. That was it. Because after that sentence comes the bylaw.
Well, technically, Section 7501, Youth Protection Curfew, is the curfew. 501.1 that we're removing is the purpose and findings, and 501.2 is the definition. And then beyond that, the defenses, the enforcement, and the penalty in conclusion. So if you're saying we're leaving it all with the exception of one, so will those numbers all change?
Those numbers have all changed. That's what I've been sitting up here being silly.
No, you're on that section now. You're on the 7501.
Right. Page 69, I believe, in that
Right.
in your paperwork.
So have they all, in other words, you're saying take out 7501.1, so what happens with .2, .3, .4? Because
everything gets shifted.
Will it get, right, that's okay, but you're making it a point to change them. I'm making sure that it's.
Yes, everything gets shifted.
No,
That's
I understand
why,
how it should happen, but
Right.
since we were so explicit
well, that's,
about
I mean, if you look at what I just read from, we had to add a section on the graffiti bylaw, and everything got shifted.
I understand.
And that's going to continue to happen until we finally put this to bed.
I
Until we get,
understand
and then when somebody comes along with a new bylaw, in 6 months from now, when we add it in after 3 readings, everything will shift again.
I
That's what it
understand the
is.
process. I understand the process,
Okay,
but
so
I can
does that
also-
answer the question?
All I'm saying is we were here, we were making votes, I remember, and this just doesn't represent, I wish there was more information here because I try and remember whether we got to the compromise, or I think it was Council Moriarty's motion that got defeated, perhaps. You were trying to remove the whole bylaw.
And
I
that
think-
failed.
And it
Right,
failed.
And it failed. So that was the, that's.
It's been upheld. The bylaw, the youth protection curfew bylaw has been upheld. It's not going anywhere. All we did was take out some wordiness and left the bylaw in. That would have been if that's not what we did, that was not my intention, was to remove the youth protection curfew bylaw.
No, right, but we discussed it up here is what I'm saying, so.
All set?
I guess,
So we
yeah.
have Councilor Manor wants to amend it, and we have a second. So I believe.
I'm going to remove my second.
Okay.
I'll make the second.
Wait a second. So Councilor Manor, motion. Councilor Moriarty, second. Councilor Carrasco.
Now, I want to understand Councilor Manor's motion. It's to remove the youth protection curfew and refer it back to subcommittee so it can be discussed with our police chief.
So what you do is you leave it as is, it gets removed from here, and it's discussed separately.
So we're leaving it as is and removing it back to subcommittee.
All set?
That's his motion.
No. Councilor Manor just basically said her motion.
Let's take no action on this section.
Councilor Moriarty, second. He just wanted clarification on it. With that being said, roll call on the motion.
Counselor Vandal,
Yes.
Counselor Carrasco,
No.
Counselor Clements,
Yes. Can't hurt.
Counselor Langevin,
No.
Counselor Manna,
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty,
Yes.
Counselor Nicola,
No.
4 yes, 3 no.
Okay. So now we're back to square one again. So as Counselor Nicola basically just read it, we are at the third and final reading, so the original motion now comes back into play. Any more discussion on this? Seeing none, this is the third and final reading. Vote to approve the proposed bylaw changes as prepared by the Bylaw Review Committee and approved by General Government Subcommittee meeting on November 25th, 2013. We have the motion. We have a second.
Second.
We already do on that one, so I will ask for the roll call, please.
Counselor Carrasco,
Yes.
Counselor Clements,
Yes.
Counselor Langevin,
Yes.
Counselor Manna,
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty,
Yes.
Counselor Nicola,
Yes.
Counselor Vandal,
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Moving on to Agenda 21, Councilors Forum. I'll start
Counselor.
with... Excuse me.
I would like to make a motion to reconsider agenda item number 19, because I feel that we're moving backwards instead of moving forward. I would make a motion.
What was that motion for?
The sign by?
Reconsider, but on the vote, was it you on the
No.
the prevailing side?
Yes, I was. It was a
Is
no
it number
vote.
19 or number 20,
It's on the signed bylaw change.
19.
the signed bylaw?
Signed bylaw change again, so I have a motion, and he was on the prevailing side on that one, on number 19.
Yes.
So Councilor Carrasco would like to reconsider, vote to approve the proposed signed bylaw changes as prepared by the General Government Subcommittee meeting on January 16, 2014. Do I have a second on this?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that?
I'm confused on what Council Carrasco is doing, so could you please explain?
Yes, absolutely. I can explain to you why. If we do not move forward, we're going to go back to our original sign bylaw, which limits people and businesses to only do 10%. And the proposed changes today was actually an increase to 25%. So we are going to restrict businesses once again. And I was confused in regards to the motion and the amendment. I honestly thought we were voting on your amendment. So that's why I said no. But we're going to be going backwards, putting restrictions to businesses at 10% rather than moving forward and allowing businesses to do the 25%. That's why I'm reconsidering tonight.
You all set, Council? Thank you. Any other discussion on this?
Just,
Councilor Clements.
thanks. That would be not my point to go backwards. It is the second reading. Obviously, there were some changes that I still felt needed to be worked on, and that's not about restricting. It is what it is right now. It will still be changed shortly. We've been putting it off for 6 months as it is, not going with the initial recommendations by the committee. That's all. Thank you.
Any other discussion? The motion on the floor is to reconsider on agenda item 19, and I have a second. If there's no other discussion, this is on the reconsider. With that being said, roll call, please.
Counselor Carrasco?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
No.
Counselor Langevin?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
No.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Nicola?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
5 yes, 2 no.
Thank you. The motion passes now. Again, vote to approve the proposed signed bylaw changes as prepared by the General Government Subcommittee meeting on January 16, 2014. Have a motion on that?
So move. Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
Yeah. Any other discussion on that?
Can you explain what?
We just voted on the reconsideration of it. He brought it back to reconsider. That passed. So now we're voting on the main motion again as read. So it would be, again, the second reading. Councilor Clements is correct. We still have the third reading to go through, but we're just trying to proceed forward.
And this is for the 25 to?
This is for the 25%.
To go to 10?
No. No. To 25%. It stays at 25%.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? If there's no other discussion, roll call, please.
Counselor Clements?
No.
Counselor Langevin?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
No.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Nicola?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Carrasco?
Yes.
5 yes, 2 no.
Thank you, and the motion passes. Now we'll go back to 21, Councilors Forum. I will start with Councilor Clements.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Since some people are maybe watching this at a rerun instead of tonight because it's so long, I just want to say hi to the seniors that I saw today at the luncheon. I just want to remind people that the luncheons that they have at the community center are the first Monday of the month, and Pat does a great job cooking a wonderful meal. So certainly, if you're interested, that is something you should look into and go. I think it's about $3 for the meal, and they're wonderful. They have topics for discussion and such, so I encourage you to get involved with the senior program. I make it a point to take some things to heart that I read in the paper, not always. But once again, somebody, I can't even remember who, was mentioning about, all the businesses are leaving town, no new businesses, all this type of thing. Well, this happened a couple of years ago, and I read a list of about 12 new places that mostly are still here, I believe. And so I just want to comment. Tonight we heard Metro Bistro. Well, we knew that. We'd mentioned that a few months back. There's also Nana Bee's, which we've heard about here right at Councilors Forum, over at Crane Street, doing a great job. There's a new Mini Mart and Deli on Hamilton Street. I haven't tried it. I heard it has good sandwiches. And I'd also like to point out a few, Anytime Fitness, also at the Big Y Plaza, opened up last fall and appear to be doing very well. And I'd comment that Thomas's Variety did a substantial investment in their property, and they didn't leave, they didn't close down, they invested more into the community. I'd also comment on Optimum Technologies, who was another business who, looking for a large location, had been here a long time on Pleasant Street, but was considering moving out of the community. And as luck would have it, he managed to get a building, one of our old buildings. He's put in money, renovated, and has a wonderful business going on there and is going to be here for quite some time. And on that note, Expert Laser, as we all know, is also developing and soaking money into our old DBW building. And that whole neighborhood, that whole Pleasant Street area is really taking on a wonderful new look, and I encourage you to take a drive by and see what people are doing. So for those naysayers who say, oh, and one more thing, Abishans is expanding at the Big Y Plaza. So they're not going anywhere. They're still here. Yes, Dick sold his business. He was retirement. He's working there now, by the way. You can all go see Dick over at Abishans Hardware. He's pretty happy. At least that's what he told me. So again, I'm not seeing them go, yeah, do we lose some? Absolutely. But really, we're still here. We're still a great community. We have a lot to offer. And if those who would rather say negative things would just start saying some positive things, then perhaps when people Google Southbridge, they won't see inadequacies and issues. What they'll see is a positive, vibrant community where they should move their business and their family to. So that's my plug for Southbridge today. And I know we honored Rudy tonight, but this wouldn't have happened 5 years ago with getting everything out and done that Rudy's been doing if it hadn't been for George Parent. So George, I know you're still out there keeping an eye on Rudy, and I can't thank you enough for all that you did to help us out those first few years. And now we have Dick Cowett, who has filled George's boots and does quite a bit with Rudy throughout the year to make sure things happen. So kudos to you, Dick Cowett, for stepping in when we had nobody in there. And truthfully, the best way you can honor Rudy DiGregorio, you thought this was great, we give kudos and good things, but the best way you can honor Rudy DiGregorio is to say yes. The next time you're asked to participate in that holiday decor or some other venue that's going on in the community, say yes, whether you have time or just money. Either way, it's both needed to get things accomplished and make this community a better place. So honor Rudy and say yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple weeks ago, we brought up the charter and complaints. Town Manager Reed, he talked about a letter that he received and the process that charter has to go through, and they have to file for the complaints, and he said there were only 3 complaints. I saw the letter, only 3 complaints. Blew my mind. 2011, they only logged 15 complaints, but I did some research on the internet, and you found a lot of complaints. But just so you folks out there, if you have any type of problem with charter, call the town manager's office. You really need to call the town manager's office. Charter's not going to go on Yelp and see your complaints. I will, but Charter's not going to see your complaints on Yelp. So I am still continuing on with that. Also, I would like to touch upon something that Chairman Langevin talked about earlier, and that's that citizens group that's trying to petition. I think it's great that people go out there and exercise their rights too, but the community, they do need to have their facts. And I don't have the article in front of me that was in the paper, but I do remember something standing out in my head that was written in those words, was said that the people didn't have any say on the access road. Well, that's wrong in itself because the people voted for the access road and it passed, from what I understand, 2-1. So those are the words that you're going to hear somebody say this. You need to do your research. You need to get your facts straight. You need to ask the questions. If it doesn't sound right, ask the question. If you think it's a stupid question, it's not a stupid question. Ask the question. And on that, I would like to congratulate the Southbridge Police Cops and Kids program on an award they just won, or were given, actually. I'm going to take this out of the telegram.com. The police program received the Unsung Hero Award by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's Child Nutrition Outreach Program at Project Bread. The award, given to a group of organizations that has demonstrated the highest level of dedication and passion to the summer food service program, was presented at the program's kickoff breakfast February 25th at the Hilton Garden Inn in Devons. Our police department does a wonderful job with this. Probably more like 18, 19 years ago, Officer Rosa was the one who founded this program, and Sergeant Jose Dingy has taken over and has taken off with it. And kudos to everyone involved on that. And they do a great service for our community and the kids in this town. And if you're looking to donate, they could use some donations. So that's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilor Vandal.
Thank you. I'm still getting a few phone calls where people are disgruntled because they say they don't want a Getty station on Main Street. It doesn't make sense, all right? They said they took a survey and there's a need. I don't know why there's a need. We got gas stations all through town. We got a convenience store on every corner. One of the gentlemen suggested that they put it on down near the depot where there's a convenience store there now. It used to be a supermarket years ago. And he said that, and the land over there is just as big as the land up here on Main Street, and it wouldn't impact our Main Street. And seriously thinking, close your eyes and imagine a gas station of that magnitude on the corner of Goddard and Main Street. Their people said that the tractor trailers coming in isn't going to be a bother. It's not going to be cumbersome. It's going to be holy hell. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Nicola.
You know, I've gotten a few phone calls on that too, and I've properly told people that, you know, you can have petitions and be unhappy with it, but at the end of the day, that's private property. And the Friendlies Corporation can sell that piece of property to whoever they choose. As long as the zoning board is in agreement with it, that's got nothing to do with the town. So I hope that anybody out there who thinks that we, the community, the town government here, had any say or was even, you know, consulted on that is incorrect, because we have no say any more than you're going to tell me who I can sell my home to. Can I tell the Friendlies Corporation who they can sell their property to? And as long as it's within zoning, then we're stuck. Unfortunately, it's not what I want either, but it is what it is, and I hate saying that, but it's true. I'd like to thank those that were responsible for this evening's presentation to my dad, to State Rep. Peter Durant, to Roger Cowett, and all the other people that had something to do with this, to the chair of the council, to the town manager's office. As it was said earlier, my dad doesn't like the fanfare, and I understand that and I respect that, but every now and then you have to be bigger than that. And what Councilor Clements said was true. If you want to honor a person like my dad or anybody else who does something for the community, in my opinion, the best way you can honor my dad and other people who do things for the community is to become more positive about this community and start to look at it through the eyes of people like my father, who's 86 years old and has lived here his entire life and has seen the good and the bad, and doesn't feel like this is the worst Southbridge has ever been. That isn't lost on me. Obviously, we have a lot of people who either have very short memories or just like to be miserable and negative. So I want to thank you for that, and I would be extremely remiss in all of that. The person who actually began that whole project was Dale Ferrin. He was a counselor with me when I first got on council, and he kind of thought it would be a nice idea, and we're the ones who dug up the first bunch of stuff that my father had given the town, and it took off from there. And there have been an awful lot of people who have worked on it. I want to say this, it's not ever been my project. It's been Councilor Clements and now Councilor Manna. Even when she was a private citizen, Councilor Manna was always involved. They're the ones who were the elves that worked very hard with my father and all the other volunteers. It's never been me. So I want to thank you again from my father. And that's really all I have tonight. Thank you.
Councilor Vandal, quickly. Go ahead.
I just want to inform Mrs. Nicola that Friendly Corporation does not own that land. That land is owned by a Mr. in Auburn, Massachusetts, and he owns the same piece of land that I just referred to as that piece of land, and he owns a few other pieces of land, a few properties in Southbridge.
Is he a private owner?
Yes, it is.
He's not, his name isn't Town of Southbridge? Then he can sell it to whoever he chooses.
Say that again?
He can sell that property to whoever he chooses, Councilor Vandal.
Right, but I mean,
Right.
I guess he can if
Right.
it's a private owner, but
So
it's not Friendly's.
Okay, I stand corrected with the owner, but I don't stand corrected with the intent that it's not the town's, it's not up to us to determine who's going to move into that property.
We don't have just a little bit of say?
No, we don't. Just the planning board, or the zoning board, rather, not the planning board. The zoning board would be the ones, not us.
Well, I think they're going to start a petition on that anyway, to get it to the town council, to vote on it, to have it put on the ballot, and let the people decide if they want a Getty station in the middle of Southbridge. Thank you.
That's illegal.
Thank you.
Councilor Moriarty.
Thank you. I just wanted to, the only thing I originally intended to kind of mention tonight is kind of similar to some of the other speakers in terms of thanking anyone and everyone who was involved in our expression of gratitude and thanks tonight for Mr. DiGregorio. It's a good example of finding the good and praising that within this community, and just want to applaud not just Mr. DiGregorio, but all those involved and all those who helped even make that happen tonight. I know we talked at subcommittee, and certainly a very humble and modest individual in terms of kind of getting those accolades, but it's certainly well deserved. And secondly, not something I originally intended to comment on tonight, but since it was commented on by a couple folks, just in terms of the petition going around, and I've had a couple conversations with different people, that some in favor, some opposed. Personally, I'm opposed to the current petition. It was in the Southbridge paper today, a portion of the interview they did, and for those who know individuals who live in neighboring towns that have annual town meeting format, feel free to talk to those folks and check with them in terms of the civic engagement. Check with them in terms of how much information people actually have when they go to those town meetings. Having covered town meetings in Holland, Brimfield, Wales, Charlton, Oxford, Woodstock, Harvard, Mass., and a handful of other towns, covering special and annual town meetings, and seeing numerous times, certainly from an impartial position. Don't really care what happens in Harvard, Mass. Sorry. But seeing how things happen or don't happen in terms of not having a quorum up until a certain agenda item goes by, and then a mass exodus, or the number of times that you'll see. Granted, we see the same thing up here at times, where people will just throw something up against the wall to see what sticks. And oftentimes, my biggest issue with the town meeting format is just that somebody can kind of come in, make a claim that could be completely baseless, and unfortunately, people tend to be motivated more so by fear than anything else in life. And people kind of tend to vote a certain way based on, Bob Smith down the way just said this could happen, and without a chance to vet it out and look at it. Certainly, do I feel that our current form of government is effective? I don't know if I'd say that necessarily. It certainly isn't efficient. We've seen that. However, comparing the two evils, I would take this one over the town meeting format. Again, I don't think it's ideal. And the one part of the proposal that I do like, I think it's too much, but is the idea of a finance committee, which I think I even noted when I ran for council that I'm fine with that, because there was a similar petition or thought at the time. And that I'm fine with. In fact, the town's charter in 1974, when it went to the council format, included at the time a 15-member finance committee. And as of, I checked on this today, most recent appointments to that committee were in 1991 or 93, early 90s. So at some point, and I'm not sure if it was a council vote, I would imagine it was a vote of the citizenry, since it's a charter issue, that decided to not only take it from 15 members, but as of the last appointment, it was only 7, but ultimately to take away the finance committee altogether. And while, again, I'm more than happy to see a finance committee, I think that would be a great idea, somebody who's looking at just the numbers, not caring about the political impact of that. I think that's fine. Something similar to what we did with the appraisal, for example, to get away from the politics of it. So certainly people can look into it, read up on it. Again, I encourage you to talk to people from neighboring towns that have town meeting format. Ask them what the good, the bad, and the ugly is with that, and make up your own mind based on that. What we had pre-1974, while I wasn't here, but I'm sure that Southbridge was no better off governmentally than it is today, in my opinion, based on what I know of the town's history and such. And again, it's just certainly look into it, do your research, and make an informed decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Carrasco.
Yes, I got a couple things. Number one, I as a parent, that participates in the festivities in the winter during the Christmas season. I truly am grateful for the team that put this together and the hard work that Mr. Di Gregorio does. I can recall, like, this past year, my son's impression on what took place down there, and Mr. Di Gregorio coming up and just talking to him and just saying, thank you, and I did this for you, and giving him a nice kiss. Some people call it, that's a boundary issue, but, people are going to try to find anything. But in reality, my son left that night with an impression of an older gentleman that cares for our community and cares for our kids. And that's something that he will remember. And that's something that he will continue to look forward to come November and December when everything starts going up. So I want to thank the team and also recognize publicly Mr. Di Gregorio and say thank you on behalf of the Carrasco family. The second thing, I've received a couple phone calls in regards to an appointment in regards to the Liquor Licensing Board. I'm just going to ask our town manager to look into that. I'm not sure, or our council chair, the process that takes place. I'm not sure where it goes to, what committee. So therefore, I don't want to give information that I'm not aware of. So if Mr. Reed or Councilor Chair can just give me some briefing on that.
Councilor, I would ask you probably to give Mr. Reed a call.
Absolutely.
And, share me your concerns, and then he can look into it further.
Yeah, it was just a phone call in regards to the process of appointment.
Yeah.
So I'm not new. I'm new to this, so
Yep.
I am learning. So I'm not going to try to give information to a citizen that I'm not aware of. And the third thing, which is something that I believe this whole council, come July, when I was appointed, took very serious, and we went out and petitioned the public. And I'm going to do it once again, because this past Wednesday, it was unfortunate, but I had to go to a funeral of a gentleman that was killed by being hit on a crosswalk by somebody not stopping for a pedestrian. It was. I've done many funerals. I've performed funerals. I've been part of funeral. But it was a very hard thing to go to because somebody's life was just taken away for somebody's irresponsibility, because that's what it comes down to. Not paying attention to what's in front of you, not paying attention to what's happening around you. And I want to plea to our citizens that are watching, to those that hopefully this gets to the newspaper, that please be aware of pedestrians. Unfortunately, he was an elderly man, but he was full of life. He was full of life. And I would hate to come back here in a couple months and say, you know what, I had to go to another funeral because the irresponsibility of our drivers. So I'm pleading once again, and I think I think every counselor on this here tonight agrees with me. Please watch for pedestrians. Slow down. Summertime is coming, springtime's coming, the motorcycles are coming out, the bicycles are coming out, the scooters are coming out, the kids are going to want to go out. We've had a tough winter. So please, let's make Southbridge safer, take responsibility as drivers, and I don't ever want to go to another funeral because a pedestrian was killed. This man battled for his life for 5 months. 5 months. This accident happened September 29th, 2013, and he died last week. 5 months of pain and agony because of somebody's irresponsibility. So I'm pleading with the town of Southbridge, spread the word. Counselors, help me, because I would hate to go to another funeral because of the irresponsibility of our citizens. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Moving on, discussion of the next meeting date. It will be Monday, March 24th, 2014, 7 p.m. in the council chambers. Agenda item number 23, vote to enter an executive session according to Chapter 39, Section 23B, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining in litigations and to adjourn.
So move. Second.
Any discussion on that? Have a roll call, please.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Langevin?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Nicola?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Carrasco?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 24, adjournment, which we will do after we get out of executive session. Yeah. Thank you.